So, let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything. The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
Jeff Kaplan. When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my minute of news, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
8:59 emergency traffic brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Heather?
We've got a crash northbound I-15 in Lehi, right at the exit ramp of Timpanogos Highway, but it's blocking 3 left lanes of the freeway. Only a few right lanes are blocked or are open, and that has traffic backed up almost to Main Street in Lehi. And then once you're in the Salt Lake Valley, we've got a crash southbound I-15 just before 90th South and Sandy. That's blocking the right lane and shoulder. That has traffic backed up into Murray. Len.
We got a crash northbound on the West Belt at the 201 exit ramp. We got a car on the exit ramp and a car on the 215. Otherwise, we also have a dumpster over on the right shoulder. That is at the North Interchange on the right side. And you're looking at the traffic flow coming in from North Salt Lake is heading southbound, where the slowing is into Rose Park. Celebrate freedom in Paris, Idaho. 4th of July, Chuck Wagon Breakfast and Parade on the 5th. A 5K run, junior rodeo, craft vendor, fair, and free concert. Visit bearlake.org for details. Len Thomas in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to be hot today. In fact, it's going to be hot all week. Today, 94, 96 tomorrow. We'll stay in the 90s through at least Monday of next week. Right now, sunshine and 74 degrees. Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour, relief to homeowners who may be stressed about the risk of insuring their homes. State HB 48 requires the Utah State Forester to draw up maps which insurance companies as well as the public can access. The hope is this will make insurance risks and costs more transparent. But Utah Insurance Commissioner John Pike says you can also help yourself.
Probably the most important thing people can do is get involved, ask questions of your insurance agent or your broker, and if necessary, shop around.
Pike also says trimming bushes and trees around your house may help those rates as well. St. George is one of America's fastest growing cities, and leaders say they're preparing for a lot more development. The population of the city has doubled since the year 2000, and housing prices have shot up. Amy Palmer is a longtime resident and tells KSL TV she worries her children won't be able to afford living there.
I have 2 younger boys and my daughter, and they're in a townhome, but my other 2, they're like, I don't know if we can afford to even a starter home.
City planners say they face challenges getting developers to invest in affordable housing instead of large homes and resorts. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. It's been nearly 3 weeks since 10 men broke out of jail in New Orleans. Only 2 are still on the run.
One of the 2 remaining fugitives has apparently posted to Instagram proclaiming his innocence and insisting that
I didn't break out, I was let out. My name is Antoine Massey.
Legal analyst Barry Ranchi says Massey isn't doing himself any favors.
Can't imagine a scenario with that type of information that he is posting on the run, acknowledging that he left the facility, that it would help.
The 8 inmates who escaped with Massey on May 16th have all had additional charges added to their rap sheets. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Your money at this moment. The Dow is up 46 points. That's 0.1%. We're at 42,808. Coming up, we've got a hot week in store. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Whether you're building your $1 million dream home, giving your current home a facelift, or just trying to get it out of the minor leagues, Peach Windows and Doors brings the big league look.
Modern style, energy efficiency, clean lines, tough builds, and curb appeal that hits like a home run. Not sure what you need? No sweat. Peach has the coaching staff to get your home in the game. No pressure, no gimmicks, just solid game plans and pro-level results to help you knock it out of the park.
Come see for yourself big, beautiful windows that bring the outside in. Visit Peach Windows and Doors showroom, big enough to spark ideas, small enough to feel right at home. It's time to step up your game and make your house the MVP of the neighborhood. Why live in the minor leagues when you can swing like $1 million? Peach Windows and Doors, because real homes play like champions. Visit peachdoorsandwindows.com or call 801-566-1255 for your free consultation.
That's Peach Windows and Doors. Give them a call, 801-566-1255.
Big summer plans? Tight budget? A home equity line of credit from Golden West Credit Union can help you make it all happen. With a low 4.77% APR fixed for 6 months. Tackle that remodel, cover unexpected expenses, or knock out high-interest debt. Your home's equity is a powerful tool to use however you need it, especially when rates are this low. Apply today at any Golden West branch or online at gwcu.org. Equal housing lender, NMLS number 440574.
We'll take care of you.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, and a regular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. It may increase your stroke risk. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding, unusual bruising, or tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. Medications such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners may increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
We have emergency traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Where do we start, Michelle?
Well, we'll start in Utah County, Amanda. We're looking at big delays due to a crash that has been blocking the HOV and fast lane. This is just prior to SR 92 Temp Highway, backing up into the Lehigh area. Now, for drivers headed further north, you're going to see some slow-go traffic from the south end of the valley all the way into downtown. More big trouble. Still emergency traffic on the East Belt, making your way northbound to join I-80 to go up into Parley's Canyon, I-80 eastbound as well as northbound on the East Belt. That's looking bad all the way up to about East Canyon. Get Dad the best Father's Day gift ever, a Minky Couture blanket. Save 50% using promo code KSL50 in stores and online at minkycouture.com. The best Father's Day gift ever. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Sunny and hot today with a high of 94. Right now it's 76 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Developments continue to unfold on the tense situation in Los Angeles as protests against federal immigration raids go into their 5th day now. The Trump administration is sending 700 Marines into the city. That, in addition to the deployment of 2,000 additional National Guard troops over the objection of Governor Gavin Newsom, who is challenging the action in court. Welcome to another edition of Inside Sources. I'm Greg Skordas alongside Holly Richardson. This is a story that keeps kind of growing on us, Holly.
It does. It keeps having legs, right? So 5th day of protests, and I think the pictures that we see on the news, right, they're almost apocalyptic, right? They look like some kind of disaster movie, and that's unfortunate.
Really, they are. Here's ABC News Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman on the scene in Los Angeles.
Hundreds of police in riot gear facing down protesters for a 4th consecutive night of clashes. The administration now making the unprecedented move of dispatching 700 active duty Marines to the streets of Los Angeles and increasing the California National Guard presence to over 4,000. Throughout much of the day, a quiet tension had settled over the city. That didn't stop the administration from bypassing the governor, who said he did not ask for this support and doesn't want it.
Interesting. We're lucky to have with us a friend of the show and a friend of mine, Chris Burbank, former Salt Lake City police chief. He was one of the finest police officers I worked with when I was at the district attorney's office. Chief, thanks for joining us this morning.
Hey, Greg, thanks for the introduction. Very much so. It's good to hear from you.
Likewise. Hey, tell us what your initial reaction to this was, especially when you heard, as a local law enforcement officer for years, what was your first thought when you heard federal agents, National Guard troops helping out?
Well, this is just disappointing, is really what it is, because what has happened is we have egos involved in this. We have lines in the sand being drawn, and we have people forming opinions, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, to protest and how you protest and what you protest. The beauty of the Constitution says that we can protest anything we want to, and there should be an avenue to do it peacefully. And the point of policing is to facilitate your First Amendment rights. And we trampled all over that as soon as this started.
You know, this is, I think,
hold back, Chief.
I think this is my first opportunity to talk to you, Chief Burbank. So happy to ask you a follow-up question, really. What was you said it was disappointing, but we now have, not only do we have National Guard that should be under the command of the governor of the state, but we also have military. We have Marines now being sent in. Where do you see that with, like, the states' rights argument of we get to be able to control what goes on in our state and how we deal with protests?
Well, I'm certainly not an attorney, but I will tell you from a police chief standpoint, what it's done is it's bypassed the opportunity to do what's best in policing, right? Local law enforcement, humanity is what our strength is. And when we can look someone in the eye and say, what do you need to accomplish? This is what I need to accomplish. How can we meet common grounds? And it's been demonstrated in Salt Lake City. It's been demonstrated in other parts of the country. And there's a better way to do business. And so what we've done is we've forgotten the good of policing, and you have now imposed a force that has a completely, wholly different mission than local law enforcement.
Chief, let's bring it close to home for a situation that you, I think, were involved in while you were chief of police, and that was the Occupy Salt Lake, the Occupy Utah. That was something that required some level of de-escalation. What were you able to do to sort of keep this one at bay?
Well, I think the important thing is so I was asking of my police officers them to do something different, right? We weren't going to don riot gear. We weren't going to be heavy-handed. We were simply going to ask people to leave in a nice, respectful manner and give them the option, right? You can be arrested for your cause tonight, and that will be without incident. You can be ticketed for your cause, or you can just get up and leave, right? But either way, it's your choice to make a decision. We're going to facilitate that. And the difference was, I believe, is that I showed up, right? The moments that I was on TV, that I was in the forefront of my troops, was when I was asking them to do something that's a little different, maybe a little more dangerous. That's when I took the risk as a leader. And I think we're seeing leaders that are not at the forefront of this. They're making calls from distant locations and basing them on whether or not they believe the protests are right. And again, allowing ego to get in the way of accomplishing the mission of policing.
I think that's so interesting that you talk about that. I saw overnight that the LAPD chief was saying, look, now that you're sending in Marines, like, we don't even have the logistics to be able to handle this many additional people on the streets, and we're that they felt like they were doing their job, and now they have these people that their chain of command is different, the communication is different, and you already mentioned the purpose of them being there is different. So one of the things I saw last night is that they ended up arresting everybody who was in an area of LA, and that included reporters. Like, can you speak to that? What would you have to see to be able to say we're going to arrest every single person in this area, including the reporters on site?
I couldn't imagine seeing anything. We allow reporters into war zones,
right?
And so somehow this is the misguided direction that we have being applied to what should be the mission of a police department, right? The opportunity to say, hey, no, this is how we're going to police ourselves. I just cannot overstress how important it is. And the one thing that you mentioned as far as the coordination, right? Perfect example is the Olympics. We took about 5 years to coordinate the response to the Olympics, and that was all a peaceful, not dynamic situation. It took 5 years, and we still had some coordination problems. Do you think you're going to just drop troops in the middle of Los Angeles and all of a sudden they're going to coordinate, communicate, and actually be on the same page as far as what mission and tactics and how things should be accomplished? And obviously we're saying, no, that's not the case.
But, Chris, let's follow up on that a little bit. There are situations, and there have to be some situations where perhaps you've got INS agents, ICE agents, whatever, that might need backup or might need some help from the local law enforcement. You coordinate that, and you can work with that. But at what point does I don't know, do you start battling between who's got what assignment?
Well, I think that begins almost immediately, right? And it's one of the things that, as far as interlocal agreements with local law enforcement and fire departments and everything else, the local agency is in charge. You volunteer, right? And Salt Lake City did this throughout the valley for years and years, right? We had more resources. We were very fortunate to have a very large police force. And so when an incident occurred, we'd call and volunteer. What do you need? And those people are now under the command and direction of the location that the event was occurring in. And you volunteer that. I don't see, right, at least from my standpoint, any coordination taking place. You have federal people running around. You have federal troops running around. You now have National Guard running around. And you have local jurisdictions that do not seem to be coordinating mission, purpose, or outcome. Right? One of the most important things is, what is the goal? Is the goal just to arrest everybody? That's unrealistic. So I've yet to hear anyone say this is what our intended goal is or outcome for this event. We're missing so much here. It brings me back to where we started. Disappointing.
Chris, you remind me why I miss you now as a former Salt Lake City Police Chief. Thanks for joining us this morning. That was Chris Burbank, former Salt Lake City Police Chief. You know, Holly, he makes a lot of interesting points, and I can't even imagine, and I guess there's no police chief in the country that can imagine having the Marines show up at your doorstep and saying, "Hey, we've got this now," or let alone the National Guard. It had to be difficult. Well, let's stay on the ground in Los Angeles. When we come back, we're going to have News Nation with us and talk about some of the legalities of what's going on.
Jeff Kaplan.
His Minute of News is great. It's always entertaining.
I listen to Jeff Kaplan every day. He gives you important news and traffic and the familiar voice that helps you enjoy the ride home.
I really like Jeff's Minute of News. He's calm and he's balanced.
I really enjoy driving home and just listening to what he's got to say.
Jeff Kaplan gets me home every day.
Join the community that relies on Jeff Kaplan. He has you covered. Afternoons from 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, I was there for opening night of 12 Angry men at Hale Center Theater. When Mark Dietlein introduced the opening night performance, he said, boy, we rarely present something like this at Hale Center Theater. It is a true drama, and Mark was absolutely right. The angst you feel, the prejudice you feel, the despair almost, and even the heartbreak of a father concerned about a son, it all goes into the deliberation of this jury that is going to decide whether a man lives or dies. And unfolding on the stage, we see what one person can do. 12 Angry Men, you've got to see it at Hale Center Theater. And right now, just down the hall, we couldn't go for a bigger difference when we're talking about Finding Neverland. 2 wonderful performances are underway right now at Hale Center Theater. Get your tickets. Go to hct.org. And don't miss 12 Angry Men.
1 in 6 Utah kids face hunger. And the summer months make things even more challenging because families can no longer rely on school meals to help them get by. These days, the situation is more dramatic than ever. That's why Utah Food Bank is again holding its annual Summer Business Food and Fund Drive, encouraging organizations of all sizes to gather food for donations for families. Beginning in early June and running through the end of August, the Summer Business Food and Fund Drive is your chance to make a difference for families seeking emergency food requests to help stretch their budgets. Rally your coworkers, friends, or a community group of any size to make a collection. Every dollar earned turns into more than $7 in the form of goods and services to help those in need. What are you waiting for? Organize your Summer Business Food and Fund Drive today. To find out more or to get ideas for your own DIY fundraiser, visit utahfoodbank.org.
It's back, and you will be too. June 12th through the 14th at the Cache County Fairgrounds, it's the Summerfest Arts Fair, celebrating its 41st anniversary, featuring local and regional artists and musicians. You're gonna love this, like you loved it before. Art, painting, ceramics, music, food. Summerfest Arts Fair is loaded with all the things that you and the family love the most. Then get set for an amazing lineup of musicians, featuring headliners the Lonely Hearts Club Band, The Last Wild Buffalo, and Music City Groove. Plus, enjoy other regional musicians like the Highline Drifters and Fry Pan Band. This is where local, regional, and national artists come together to celebrate the arts. So discover 165 artist booths, 38 performing groups, and 30 food vendors, along with a plein air art competition. Get the full details at logansummerfest.org. Logansummerfest.org. Summerfest Arts Fair, June 12th through the 14th at the Cache County Fairgrounds.
Comcast Business is celebrating Small Business Month by giving you a $1,000 small business bonus when you switch to a qualifying gig speed package from the company with over 99.99% network reliability. Just imagine the thousands of possibilities of a $1,000 prepaid card. Like possibility number 1, company merch for staff. Stylin'. Or possibility number 24, the latest software. Upgrade. Or possibility number 192, new equipment powered by gig speeds. Or possibility number 555, a 3D printer. Rapid prototyping, anyone? Switch to Comcast Business for over 99.99% network reliability, advanced cybersecurity, and now get started with a $1,000 small business bonus. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
N62225. New customers only with 2-year agreement. Other restrictions apply.
GoPave Utah has 5-star reviews for asphalt, concrete, paving, and striping repairs. Schedule a free consultation today. GoPaveUtah.com.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Developments continue to unfold on the tense situation in Los Angeles. At the last segment, we spoke with former Salt Lake City Police Chief Chris Burbank about his, disappointment and sort of consternation about what's going on. The Los Angeles mayor has weighed in on this, talking about the Trump administration sending in now 700 Marines in addition to what will end up being, it looks like, about 2,000 National Guard troops.
The way to stop this violence is for the raids to not happen. And we're hearing that they could last for as long as 30 days with multiple raids a day. We don't know where they're going to take place. We don't know when they're going to happen. But it creates a sense of fear and terror throughout our city, and it's just unacceptable.
She's talking about the ICE raids. She's talking about sort of the core of the problem, Holly, and
Right.
not necessarily what we are now doing with LAPDs jumping in and trying to break up. First of all, the raids. Then you've got the people protesting. Then you've got the city police coming in. Then
Right.
you've got National Guard, and now we're up to the Marines. She's sort of, let's start at the core, and maybe we don't need to do the raids for a while.
Maybe don't show up at Home Depot, right?
Right. I mean, trying to get ICE to back off a little bit and say, hey,
Yeah.
let's take a breath. Let's inhale. Let's decide a better way to round up these individuals who are here undocumented.
That seems unlikely. And, the California Governor Newsom has weighed in and says the state's suing the Trump administration. But President Trump said he really hopes that he can get Newsom's support.
He should only be happy I sent in the military, because if I didn't send them in, you would have had a problem there, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time.
Newsom should be happy. Not likely. It doesn't seem like that's the way it's going. We're joined, or lucky to be joined this morning by Mills Hayes, a national correspondent for News Nation. Mills, thank you for joining us this morning. And can you tell our listeners kind of an update? We talked about this yesterday. What's happening today, and how are things going?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry. We've got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Tell us what's going on.
Well, right now it's pretty normal. It really feels like a normal Tuesday, except for the fact that there are National Guard troops in front of the federal buildings. It's the Federal Detention Center as well as an immigration building as well. And there are about a half a dozen National Guard troops that are in front of that building right now, but not a whole lot of protest activity happening at this moment. However, we were on the morning shift, and so I actually got woken up by police sirens a little after midnight, and I looked out my window. There were dozens of cop cars. Walked outside. There were multiple arrests that were happening right in front of me. I saw some of them got some on video as well, and I went up and chatted with one of the California Highway Patrol officers, and he told me that it was because of looting. And that's when we walked down a little bit further into the jewelry district. I ended up being able to talk to one of the jewelry store owners whose business was broken into, and he was obviously very frustrated. But there were at least 4 jewelry stores that were hit last night, and then 2 dispensaries were hit as well, and a pharmacy and Adidas store too. And we actually just heard from the mayor of LA, Karen Bass. She wrote on Twitter saying that the people who are looting do not care about the immigrant communities here in LA. And she says that those people will be held accountable, which is something that we definitely did see as far as arrests go. But we know that were definitely people that ran away also, because we saw people that were dressed in all black with the black masks on to hide their identity. There were cars, multiple cars with a lot of people in them. So it seemed like it was an organized kind of retail crime operation that was happening. And whether or not those were the same people or protesters that then bleeded in to becoming looters, not sure. But either way, as the mayor said, that those people are not the people who care about the immigrant community here.
Let me ask you a question about the Marines in the area. Have you seen any Marines at this point?
We have not. We haven't seen any Marines yet. We have been told that they did arrive, though. We will likely see them in the next coming hours, though. I suspect that they'll be around the federal building, because that's really where we've seen all federal officers, National Guard, as well as Homeland Security investigation officers around there as well. So we're going to we're keeping a lookout for them, but have not seen them on the ground as of yet.
Mills, it's interesting that you mentioned, you said about a half a dozen National Guard troops there out of maybe we have some numbers from 700 to 2,000. Does that
up to 4,000 actually? An extra 2.
Yeah, an extra 2,000. So it seems Mills, as though at least this morning, and it's still pretty early there, it's not even 8:30. Things are fairly calm, and there's not a lot going on. But the evening is when things really go south. It seems.
Yeah, it is, and it also kind of bleeds into the early morning hours. We saw, I think it was around 1:30 in the morning, was the last firework that I saw set off by protesters or rioters, whatever you want to call them. And that was around 1:30, and then we saw LAPD kind of leave the area around 3:30. There were still some stragglers, some people that were holding like Mexican flags and people that were clearly a part of the protest to begin with. But about 3:30 is when everyone started to clear out. But yeah, it's when it gets dark is when we start seeing those agitators start acting up.
Mills, do you see any cooperation or coordination, I should say, between LAPD and the National Guard troops? Are they working together? Are they sort of forming lines together, or do they seem to have independent missions?
They seem to have independent missions, honestly, because most of the interaction that's happening right now with protesters or with rioters is coming from local and state police. I've seen interactions between protesters, rioters with California Highway Patrol, with LAPD, and with LA County Sheriff deputies. I did see some interaction with federal officers on Sunday myself, but it was because they were in front of the Federal Detention Center, and that's where the troops are at right now. But they were trying to clear out the loading dock area to allow some military trucks and vehicles to get into the loading dock area, and the protesters weren't getting out of the way. And so on Sunday, that's when we saw them deploy pepper spray balls as well as tear gas. I actually got caught up in that as well. It was not fun at all, but that's really the only scuffle that we've seen between federal officers and protesters, at least me personally. And then I know yesterday we didn't really see anything. It was all state and local.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mills, for joining us today. Mills Hayes, a national correspondent on the ground in L.A.
And I have to say, Holly, that as this continues to escalate, and I'm a little bit optimistic listening to her that things have calmed down a bit.
Yeah, sounds like it.
6 federal agents, but the administration has said that they intend to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. So we talked yesterday about the sort of the dialogue, and I guess I like to get into the legal part of this, between Title 10 of the United States Code, which allows the president to federalize the National Guard, meaning they become basically active duty federal officers, and they can do that when there's several instances, but the one that most fits this is when there's rebellion or danger of rebellion, versus the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878. These are some old laws, which prohibits the use of U.S. military for domestic law enforcement purposes. And so the Trump administration is saying, we need Title 10. The Gavin Newsom administration is saying, wait a minute, mind your own business. We got this under control. But the one that trumps them both, and that's an awkward word to use, the Insurrection Act of 1807, as I'm reading that, Holly, it grants the United States president the authority to deploy U.S. military and the National Guard to suppress insurrection or domestic violence, or to enforce federal law when states are unable to do that. So I think, and by the way, it's fairly clear law that the Insurrection Act overrides both of the others. So if in fact Trump does Insurrection Act, does impose the Insurrection Act, the state's out of bounds, and we'll see whether he intends to do that.
Right, and I think that's Newsom's argument, right, is that there is no insurrection at this point, right, and there were peaceful protests. It does look like it's escalating, and we're getting ready actually to go to our next break, and excuse me, we've got members of the Utah legislature who's going to join us this time.
Yeah, and talk about the AI moratorium that's included in Trump's big, beautiful bill. We're going to talk with Utah Representative Doug Fiafia after the break. Stay with us.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story: police have arrested a 21-year-old who allegedly stabbed a man to death for acting shady. KSL News Radio's Claire Scott.
It was late Sunday when police say they responded to a call for help and found a 54-year-old with multiple stab wounds on the side of the road. This was at 96 North 100 East, Tooele City. Police say they arrested 21-year-old Isaac Smith in connection to this crime after he called 911 himself and said he stabbed his mother's friend, telling the dispatcher the man had attacked him. Police say Smith later told them he had felt threatened by the 54-year-old after he came to his house and was acting shady.
Police say the 54-year-old was taken to the hospital, but he later died from his injuries. His name has not yet been released. Utah State University is asking for help in finding a new president. The school is hosting in-person and virtual listening sessions. Community members, USU employees, and students can tell the university what they're looking for in the next president. The former president announced her resignation in February. The Utah Board of Higher Education has also formed a committee to select a new president. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Trump administration is sending 700 Marines to L.A. as protests against federal immigration raids go into their fifth day. President Trump also ordered the deployment of 2,000 more California National Guard troops over the objections of California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is challenging the action in court.
This protester, Addie, says she's been out on the protest lines for 4 consecutive days now.
Why is this personal for you?
It's personal for me. I was undocumented once. I came to this country when I was 5 years old. I've lived here without an identity until I was 20 years old. Thanks to my mother, thanks to my grandmother who came here and led the way, I've been able to have a successful career.
California Governor Gavin Newsom mocking the deployments.
That's ABC News Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman on the scene in L.A. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 28 points. We're at 42,795. Coming up, a hot day, in fact, a hot week in store. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Imagine struggling with a slow, outdated computer that takes forever to load anything, that randomly freezes up and is filled with viruses and malware.
Now picture yourself with a powerful desktop or laptop that runs smoothly and efficiently, making your work and entertainment seamless. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
Everything's a little better when it's super. Heroes, markets, sized, and of course, checks. A super check gives you an in-depth review of your current insurance coverage with a Farm Bureau Financial Services agent, no matter who your insurance provider is. That's super cool. Talk to a Farm Bureau agent to make sure you're properly covered at fbfs.com/protect. It's your future. Let's protect it. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
Keeping your engines healthy means protecting them in season and out. Experts trust Stable to do that. And third-party testing confirms it. Stable is the industry leader in preventing fuel-related issues, no matter if you use it in your car, boat, or outdoor power equipment. In season or out, at every fill-up or when you store, start with Stable.
I'm Ed Evans, CEO of Consumer Cellular. No, we're not one of the big guys. Truth is, we don't want to be. If you're over 50, Big Wireless probably has you paying for more data than you might need. You could be throwing away thousands over a lifetime. We're not here to be the biggest. We're here to bring you something we believe is better. Our plans start at just $20. You'll get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com. Paid for by the Electronic Payments Coalition.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Michelle Rowe.
The trouble in Utah County and Lehigh has cleared up nicely. Traffic is getting past that earlier crash. Seeing a little bit of slowing at the south end of the valley, northbound I-15, and then again going through the Murray area. For drivers that are trying to use the East Belt to get into Parley's Canyon, you're going to still see a little bit of northbound delays as you're approaching I-80. Also continued slowdowns in spots on I-80 going from the Sugar House area in spots all the way over to Silver Summit. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialists. Whipple that away. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today will be hot, a high of 94, a slight chance of a shower tomorrow, just a 10% chance, a high of 96 tomorrow. Right now it's 76 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
As the so-called Big Beautiful Bill progressed from the House to the Senate, we have a lot of Republicans in the Senate taking a close look at it. And as we're getting into this closer and closer, Holly, we're seeing things in there that a lot of us didn't see or appreciate. And yesterday we talked about it briefly, but one of those is what they call a 10-year moratorium on state-level artificial intelligence regulation, which was included in the bill. And a lot of people are going, why and what does it mean?
Right. And not only that, right, it brings up the issue that we've talked about before in the show, and that is the states have been doing a good job, especially Utah. I think, at kind of navigating that AI regulation and being able to be nimble and change when new technology comes out, and it's changing really rapidly. We're lucky today to have on the line with us Representative Doug Fiafia, who has worked in big tech before, and now he's on Utah's Capitol Hill. He just sent a letter to Senator Mike Lee and Senator John Curtis to talk about some concerns.
Representative Fiafia, thanks for joining us this morning.
Greg and Holly, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
It looks like you had everybody join you just about, Republicans and Democrats. Tell us what got you to write this.
Yeah, that's a great question. And to your point, we have Utah legislators, both Republicans, Democrats, both senators and House members, really united in opposing this 10-year moratorium, AI moratorium. We've sent this letter to Congress to remove this provision from this bill, and the reason being is this moratorium would limit state rights. As you said, Holly, earlier, states are laboratories for innovation when it comes to policy, and so let's let that process work. Just because we want to move fast doesn't mean we can't do so without a seatbelt. And so we are standing up for our state's rights as a state legislature and making sure that we, as technology moves forward, that we can be nimble enough and adjust as needed to make sure that we're protecting Utahns and consumers and users.
One of my questions is, why do you think this was even put in the bill in the first place? Like, what were the conversations in D.C. that said we're going to have the federal government issue a 10-year moratorium? I'm not understanding that part very well.
Yeah, I think the excuse, and I say excuse intentionally, is that we are in an arms race with China, and we need to make sure that we win this race. And I think that's valid, but I also think that we can build out frameworks and not put in these types of freezes. These types of moratoriums are used more so in the case of emergencies, and we aren't in an emergency. I think there is an ability for us to work through AI and see the advances and follow Utah's lead, really. We've not only built an AI policy office, an AI innovation lab, but also we've built out an actual framework that we are using as legislators and as state leaders to balance out innovation versus also protection of consumers. And so I think that's what I would recommend to Congress is let's build out a framework so that states know how to legislate and regulate and not so much ban completely any state-level AI policy.
Let's follow up on that a little bit, Representative Fiafia. Utah, as I understand it, was the first state in the nation to establish an Office of Artificial Intelligence Policy, and you talked about the AI Learning Lab and a framework for regulatory mitigation. What caused us to get ahead of the curve on this, and how is that legislation being used, or I know it's fairly new, but how is that legislation, do you think, going to be helpful to Utah?
Sure. I think, one, we have a legislature who's forward-thinking. If you look at the last few years, we've dealt with data privacy, we've dealt with social media issues, and we are now kind of being reactive to the problems that have come through social media. We also have a governor that is also forward-thinking and thinking about how do we protect kids and families from the harms of social media and big tech. And so you couple all of that together, and we have legislation like we do, and we've created the AI policy office, the innovation lab. And what this does is it helps us to be more proactive in our approach to AI. AI is one of the most innovative creations since the internet. It's moving at such a fast pace that we need to be able to add protections in and regulations as needed. I think in Utah, we see it as we want to promote innovation. We want tech companies to thrive, and we want companies and individuals to use it as needed. But that also doesn't mean that we can't add in protections.
So I have a question about the sandbox. So is this a regulatory sandbox where people can try different things? Like I know that Utah has done that before in some other spaces. Is that the idea behind this AI sandbox?
From my understanding, that's exactly what it is. It allows you to innovate and create things and just see how it would affect your business or users, consumers, and that's the type of forward thinking that we want in the state. Is we want people creating and building AI tools and building it within businesses, but also doing it with a protective mindset.
I'm looking at your letter, Representative Fiafia, and it's addressed to our two U.S. senators, Mike Lee and John Curtis, dated June 6th. So it was last Friday. Have you had any response yet from the senators or their office, or do you feel like you've gotten their attention?
Yes. So we've talked to all of our delegation with help with our legislature's leadership in both the Senate and the House. Leadership has discussed with them. I've personally talked with our federal delegation, and it seems like they're in line. And one thing that they've appreciated and shared with us is the amount of legislators that are on this list gives them leverage to say, hey, our state legislature is not okay with this, and we cannot support this. And so we are optimistic that this will be pulled out, but it's something that we have to keep a close eye on because, as you stated earlier, we don't know how this got in the bill. It should have never been in this type of bill, and we want to just make sure that this doesn't happen and it doesn't appear in this bill or any future bill.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Representative. I'm sure we will have an opportunity to talk to you again about this and other AI and tech things as we move forward with this show.
Holly, let me ask you this, something to follow up on Representative Fiafia's comments, and that is how, and play the devil's advocate a little bit. How do you think this got into the bill?
Well, somebody clearly had, some conversation somewhere, right? So you've got a 1,000+ page bill. And again, we've talked about the big, beautiful bill. Part of that is to be kind of a lump everything together and pass it as an entire package. So there was somebody somewhere, and I don't know who it was, but introduced this into the bill and said, well, hey, we as the federal government should control this.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we're going to talk further about the big, beautiful bill. This one was also, I appreciated Representative Fiafia's comments because they write this letter, and it's joined by, it's 2 pages of names of people that are on board with this. And the Utah legislature, like he said, is way ahead of the curve on this. We've got things going. Utah could be the model for this. So, boy, let's not throw that out in terms of the bill. Straight ahead, let's go live to Washington, D.C. and check in on the progress and proposed changes that some conservative members of Congress would like to see in the big, beautiful bill.
I'm Utah Tax Attorney Jordan Wilcox. Listen to what actual clients have had to say about working with us.
I'm Paul. I'm a contractor. I had a tax problem that was pretty significant. Needed some help with the IRS. I had prepared my taxes for a few years, but when I went to file them, I didn't have any money to pay those taxes. And so I just filed the returns in my drawer and went about my business. And about 3 years went by when I did that, and pretty soon I owed $102,000. And I met with Jordan, and we talked about the hole I dug myself into. And from start to finish, the process was encouraging, supportive, saved me about $80,000, $102,000 to $22,000. No complaints.
Hi, I'm Jordan Wilcox. You need a tax attorney that's not afraid to fight for you. Schedule your free consultation today. Visit endtaxworry.com.
The relief is immeasurable.
Don't wait. End your nightmare. Your relief starts at endtaxworry.com.
Discover the timeless value at Duke's Jewelers, a local treasure since 1948. Whether you're searching for a unique engagement ring or need expert watch repair, Duke's has been serving the community for over 75 years. It's the perfect time to visit and explore the wide selection of custom designs and quality gemstones. The skilled designers at Duke's can bring your dream piece to life, while experienced jewelers handle repairs and modifications in-house. Duke's Jewelers takes pride in value pricing, ensuring you receive the best prices every day. Need an appraisal? The Duke's Jewelers AGS certified gemologist is here to help. Whether it's hand or machine engraving, or redesigning old favorites into something new, get personalized service for every occasion. Visit Duke's Jewelers and experience the difference of locally operated expertise and dedication. Duke's Jewelers in Springfield, Utah.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Tired of hearing scary radio ads about the IRS? Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000 or $500,000, we have a solution. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS with zero risk to you. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with a BBB. End your tax nightmare today by visiting TRA.com or call 800-583-6681. That's 800-583-6681.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave. Oh, what a beautiful day. This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat. Let's run another marathon. And regular deodorant. How much more? Secret is the GOAT because nothing fights sweat better. Stay fresher under pressure.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. I'm here to warn you about telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Some of these scammers may say threatening things like you will be arrested if you don't make payments or provide personal information. Do not fall for these tricks. These calls are not from us. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you for information or money. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Never give the caller your personal information, like your Social Security number or bank account, or send money in any form, cash, gift cards, wire transfers, or prepaid debit cards. Report the call to our law enforcement arm, the Office of the Inspector General, at oig.ssa.gov. Share this information with your friends and family.
Inside Sources.
Holly, I'm looking at an article published in the Deseret News just recently, and it was written by our next guest, Cami Mondo. involving Mike Lee and other House conservatives demanding some changes to Trump's tax bill. And we've talked in the last segment about the one big beautiful bill. There's
Right.
lots of names for it anymore. And as I look at it, one of the things that strikes me at the heart is the fact that it provides for $3.7 trillion in tax cuts over the next decade, but alongside that is $1.3 trillion in spending cuts. So that leaves a $2.4 trillion deficit just on its face, right at the beginning. The math doesn't work, and I think that's got some of our conservatives a little bit concerned, at least now as that bill sits at the Senate.
You know what's so interesting is you have all these other news stories that kind of overshadow right now, I guess, at least LA and the Elon Musk feud, and now it's the Trump Newsom feud. But really what we have going on in DC is we still have discussions on this big beautiful bill, and people are saying, including Mike Lee, our own senator, Utah Senator Mike Lee, saying there's no chance the bill will pass in its current form. It will pass the Senate, no chance. So people are demanding kind of some different changes, right? And it depends on where you're coming from. But there are deeper spending cuts are one of the things that are being demanded by the House Freedom Caucus. And when you get over to the Senate, right, then you're starting to get pushback in some of these areas.
Yeah, and it seems to me that, let's face it, Democrats in the Senate are not going to support the bill.
Right, there are 0 Democrat votes.
So it only will take, and you're talking about Mike Lee and some others saying we're not going to support it in its current form.
Right.
That tells you it's not going to pass in its current form unless
Correct.
something significant changes. So, even in the last segment alone, we talked about one specific provision of the bill that the AI restriction on states having any regulatory authority for 10 years. People going, wait a minute, do we really want that? And then we have Mike Lee and others saying, well, I'm not going to support it in its present form. We have joining us this morning Cami Mondo, a Deseret News congressional correspondent. Cami, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And talk to our listeners about what sort of changes really Congress wants to see with this bill, the Senate at least wants to see with this bill, and what's holding it up in its current state.
Right. So you're seeing kind of two different factions in Senate Republicans that are holding up this bill. Some who want deeper spending cuts. They want to see more in, the Medicaid cuts. They want to see some of the deals that were worked out in the House to be repealed. On the other hand, you have another faction of Senate Republicans who want to, kind of go through things item by item to make sure that not everything in Medicaid is cut. They want to preserve some of these green energy tax credits. So you kind of have these competing factions, while you also have conservatives in the House who are putting the pressure on.
Yeah. So I've seen. Can we talk about SALT for just a minute? The SALT deduction.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So can you explain that to us and kind of like where the tension is between the House and the Senate with those?
Right. And so this SALT reduction or expansion, is basically something that only affects a few blue states. But you have some Republicans in those blue states who are wanting to expand that number. So what took so long in the House to get this package through is that there are a handful of House Republicans. They're from New York. They want to expand those tax deductions. So they got this SALT deal that would raise those deductions to a pretty high number. I think it's around 400,000 or something, or 40,000 for that number. But then that heads over to the Senate. They don't care so much about the SALT. It doesn't affect them. So they want to try and pare back that number so it doesn't spend as much money. But, you have Republicans in the House warning that if that number is pared back, they'll vote against it when it comes back to them. And so you kind of have them butting heads a little bit there.
Yeah, I think that's one that people are not really familiar with, right? But isn't it a deduction for state taxes, but it really impacts high income, high tax, typically blue states. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. You see states like California or New York where they have really high taxes. And so it kind of puts out some deductions there. But, states like Utah or in the Midwest, they don't have to deal with this. So it's an issue that a lot of senators are like, we don't have to worry about this. This is a sticking point for a very small percentage of our caucus. We shouldn't have to worry about it. But again, the margins are so small in the House and Senate for Republicans that it really is you need to get everybody on board. And it's not clear what that compromise might be.
Right.
Cammie, the House passed this by the narrowest of margins, 215 to 214. Some of the House Freedom Caucus members are saying, "Hey, wait a minute, let's take a second look at this." And the Senate has a tiny bit more breathing room. Do you see any way that, or is there any talk, I guess I should say, of any bipartisan discussion here if the Senate does lose its Republican majority support of this bill, or are Democrats just going to stand aside and say, we're not supporting it?
Right, and that's the interesting thing, is you've seen over the last 2 years, 4 years, Democrats usually have to swoop in and help Republicans with stuff like this. I think this is an issue where Democrats and Democratic leaders are kind of throwing their hands up saying, this is all on you. We don't want any of this to pass. This is not part of our agenda. So they're kind of just throwing, the towel in. They don't want to engage at all. There's no deals, I think, that can be made that would persuade any Democrat to get on board.
So I know that there's a goal to have this passed by July 4th. It sounds like there's a whole lot of discussion that still has to happen between now and then. If senators cannot come to an agreement, or they come to an agreement, but it goes back to the House and the House members now, they've lost their one vote majority. Do you have any sense on the Hill in D.C. what might happen if this whole thing falls apart?
Right. So that's one of the interesting parts, is that, July 4th is obviously their deadline that they set earlier this year, but it's looking like they might push that back. Trump and Mike Johnson were saying yesterday that would be the ideal timetable, but they might have to push it back. The one thing that really is giving them a hard deadline is this issue of the debt ceiling, which is tucked into the reconciliation package. If that does not get passed and they don't increase the debt limit, the U.S. could default on some of its loans, which would, impact the global economy. That is something that they could pull out and do by themselves. That is something that they could negotiate with Democrats on. But that is the only real thing, real consequence, if they do not get this passed.
Cammie, are you getting the sense from any of our members, or any just members generally of the House or the Senate, that the administration, the Trump administration, is willing to bend at all and consider some tweaks and some amendments to this? Because so far they seem to be saying, this is the bill, take it or leave it, and seemingly thinking Republicans are going to fall in step, and they're not. But do we get the sense that the administration is changing a little bit?
Right, and that's kind of what's at the center of the conversations right now. So White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was at the House Republicans meeting this morning. She was kind of selling the bill, saying this is what you can use on the campaign trail. These are the big wins that Trump had promised, selling the bill in that way. You also had Vice President Vance, who was also on the Hill this morning. He was talking to Senator Ron Johnson and a couple other Republicans who are current holdouts. And it sounds like that conversation was more of a dialogue. It seems Ron Johnson was just telling me that, he was laying out his own projections, comparing them to the White House. Didn't seem like there were any changes agreed to in that meeting, but he did say it was a good conversation. And so maybe there are some agreements that could come out.
So fascinating.
It really is. That was Cammie Mondo, Deseret News congressional correspondent. And this is really fascinating. We'll get off the one big beautiful bill and sort of let it ride for a day or two. But it's been a lot of fun to talk about it and break it down and see how our representatives and others are sort of looking at the nuances of it. The AI part, the raising the debt limit and whatnot. And so, yeah, what's what happens when you write a 1,038-page bill and expect everyone to just sign off on it. When we come back after the break, a new report ranks Utah number 4 for child well-being. That's very good, but also points out a couple of areas where Utah could improve. We'll learn more from Lois Collins with the Deseret News next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. The Utah Highway Patrol says a man rolled his car in Beaver County after falling asleep at the wheel. And it's just the latest example of how dangerous it can be to drive drowsy. The UHP says the driver was from Nevada and he is currently getting medical treatment. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Police are investigating a deadly shooting this morning at a school in Austria.
Gunfire was heard at around 10 o'clock local time this morning. This is in Graz, which is a city in the southeast of the country, the second largest city in Austria. Special forces and a police helicopter have been deployed, as well as other emergency services. The school has now been evacuated and students are receiving care either on site or at local hospital.
ABC's James Longman says early reports say 10 people died in the attack, including the shooter. Chick-fil-A is turning to one of its most loyal and busiest markets in the country to test a new sandwich. That market happens to be the Salt Lake one. The Jalapeno Ranch Club sandwich will be exclusive for now to the Wasatch Front. This is the latest item from the fast food chain to be tested here in Utah. We were also one of the first markets to try out the Ice Dream Spin and Float, as well as the Autumn Spice Milkshake. Your money at this moment. The Dow is up 32 points right now. We are at 42,793. Coming up, we're well above normal temperatures for at least the next 7 days. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:01. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you have a lot to get done and get growing this spring in your yard or garden, let our friends at Replenish Landscape Garden Products help. Tim Hughes here with Greg and Mike. As much as we talk about Replenish, I want everybody to know, Greg, that no matter what part of their landscaping they're changing, and maybe they're looking for something that provides them with no maintenance or low maintenance, you have other materials that can help.
That's all right. We have 4 different natural barks. We have 4 different of the colored wood mulches. We have rock, we have gravel, we have sand, 22 different products here.
You may never have to pull weeds again. Mike, there's a reason why professional landscapers and even school districts and others use your products.
Yeah, it's a great proven material. We get a lot of school districts and municipalities that use it as well, and landscapers.
You're going to find it all right here in Murray at 4660 South 200 West. Call them at 801-262-5142 or go online at replenishcompost.com. Remember, Replenish. It's good stuff.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Call 801-475-4004 today to schedule your personal visit.
Dive into 2025's best family fun at the Ute Stampede Rodeo with Extreme Bulls. The Ute Stampede is Utah's best family entertainment, honoring the rich heritage and the spirit of the West. 3 nights of PRCA Rodeo, Flying U Rodeo, live music, food carnivals, and plenty of rodeo showmanship. Experience gold medal competition topped off with huge prize money. Witness epic battles of man versus beast. Wednesday, July 9th with Extreme Bulls. Special package pricing available. Visit UteStampedeRodeo.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here is Michelle Rowe.
I'm looking at a live shot of traffic southbound I-15 in Kaysville. You're seeing some slowdowns due to lane restrictions. That right lane does have those orange cones. So that's as you're approaching Shepherd Lane. Other than that, I-15 running pretty smoothly across the Wasatch Front. A little bit of slowing eastbound I-80 as you're approaching Silver Summit. Jordan Valley Water says we're using about 12% more water than last year, even though we don't need to. Do your part. Water one less day each week. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll see a high today of 94, and then we stay in the mid-90s for the rest of the week. The hottest days will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Right now, it's sunny and 81 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Still trying to get used to the introduction.
I know we have like walk-up music.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, Holly, as long as I've been working with KSL, we do these shows, and it's not uncommon when we have polls or surveys or things that come out. And Utah's always, when we talk about economy, when we talk about families, when we talk about where we're going, near the top. And we're looking today at it looks like the Annie E. Casey Foundation's 36th Annual Evaluation for Child Well-Being. And Utah ranks pretty high. We're lucky to have with us Lois Collins, Deseret News Special Projects and Family Issues Reporter. Lois, thanks for joining us. And how did Utah do?
We did great. We're number 4. So we came in right behind New Hampshire, Vermont, and Massachusetts.
Wow.
No surprise there. So what were sort of the categories? What were things that they were looking at?
So they actually had 4 categories that each had 4 subcategories. So they had economic well-being, education, health, and family and community. And those had different things under them that they measured. And they also compared to in the past. So are we getting better or are we getting worse? And we're getting better mostly.
And on those specific categories, I'm just looking at them. Economic well-being, I guess that's family, you know, how the families are being taken care of and whatnot.
Families and poverty is a big one. And there are a lot of Utah kids in poverty, but it's better than it was. It's gone down 1%. It was 10%. Now it's 9%.
Compared to when? Was it just 1 year ago?
So they have done they've looked at things 2 different ways. They've looked at it over a year, and they looked at it also in 5-year chunks.
Okay.
And it's gone down 1% over the course of the 5 years, which still leaves 88,000 Utah kids in poverty.
Yeah, that's an issue.
But that's better than 91,000 kids.
Right.
So
can you talk to us a little bit about the housing issue?
About the which issue?
Housing seems to be a big issue, right?
That is a huge issue, and that also contributes to the poverty. So more than a quarter of children live in households, I should say, where the housing costs are more than 30% of the total family income. And that's sort of a benchmark that has been set that it's affordable if you can pay less than 30%, but if you're paying more than that, you're really stretched, and you're giving up other things that you really need to have that are basics too. So a quarter of Utah kids are in that situation.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of how we did in the education component of that? I know that Utah's often seen, Lois, as a state that underpays its educators. And maybe, I mean, they've come a long way in the last several legislative sessions, but how does Utah do education-wise for us?
So education-wise, we're number 5, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
They didn't look at like how we pay our educators. What they looked at is kids' achievement. There's a lot of pain in this high ranking too, though. We know that almost 2/3 of kids at a 4th grade level are not reading at level.
That seems really concerning. 2/3 is a really big number.
Which is a lot. That is a huge number. And part of that is the pandemic.
Yeah.
Kids fell behind in the pandemic, and that's a nationwide problem.
Yeah.
So nationally, 3/4 of kids are not on level.
Wow.
And in 8th grade, we've got about the same number, about 65% who are not performing proficiently in math. And
also a huge issue, right?
And that's terrible as well, but that's also partly the pandemic. It's partly a lot of things. The other things they looked at were high school graduation. We have gotten somewhat better on kids not graduating on time, and we're in good shape compared to a lot of the nation, but that's still 1 in 8 kids are not graduating on time.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that they looked at was young children not in school. And there are different feelings on that question. Some people don't believe that you need to be in preschool and then kindergarten and then school. But that was one of the Annie E. Casey benchmarks, was kids 3 and 4 who are not in some sort of school program, because it does give you early education. And that is 57%. So almost 6 in 10 kids are not in those preschool
Yeah,
situations.
I would just say for me, my family, I didn't have my kids in preschool because I was a stay-at-home mom, and they went to kindergarten when it was kindergarten time, and so
and
I understand that.
I think it's a whole bunch of different things go into that decision too. It's can you afford preschool? Is there preschool available? Are you working 4 jobs and you can't get kids to preschool? Or I mean, some kids probably need it more than others because of family situations. It's hard to say.
Sure.
What about the health of our young people? Are we taking care of them in Utah?
As far as the health goes, so we're doing pretty well and kind of flat on low birth weight babies. We have about 1 in 8 babies are low birth weight. No, I've got my number wrong on that. It's about 8% of babies, so it's 1 in 12 are low birth weight, which is better than a lot of the country. We have only 7% of kids that have absolutely no health insurance. Some of that may change with Medicaid cuts and with the rolling back of some of the expansion and stuff. But right now, it's 1 in 14 kids do not have access to any insurance. Our child and teen death rate is quite a bit better than the national average. I don't know what to make of those numbers. They didn't go into details on that number, but in Utah, it's 26 per 100,000, and in the nation, it's like 29 or 30. Mm-hmm. So it's a significant number difference. And then the other question where we don't do well and where we're getting worse is in the number of kids who are obese or overweight.
Wow.
And that has real ramifications.
They might be drinking their sugar.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's something I've talked about a little bit too. 31% nationally is the number of kids are obese or overweight. And this is looking at kids ages specifically 10 to 17.
So we're still better than the national average.
We're better than the national average, but it's still 1/4 of kids. Yeah, and we have gotten worse. It used to be 5 years ago, it was 21%, and now it's 25%.
Wow. Interesting.
And then family and community you talked about.
So the family and community, one of the measures is children in single-parent families, and we've been super stable on that for a long, long time. It's 1 in 5 kids, a little bit under 1 in 5 kids are in single-parent families. Nationally, it's more than a third.
Wow.
So
that's a big
on
difference,
that measure, but while we've been flat, if you consider that a problem, then we're doing better than the nation on that one. Children in families where one of the parents doesn't have a high school diploma, we're only 6%. We're well below the national, which is 11%. Children living in high poverty areas, and remember that's different than the poverty rate. It's only 1%. Partly because we don't have a whole bunch of really high poverty areas that you could point to like some states and communities do.
Right.
And the other measure for that was teen births per 1,000, and we have 9 teen births per 1,000, which is significantly better than the 13 per 1,000 for the country.
How has that tracked over time? Do you know?
So, it has gotten better. In 2019, it was 12, and now it's 9. But nationwide, This has also gotten better. There are far fewer teen births. And the thing with the Annie E. Casey Foundation is that they don't delineate age either.
Mm-hmm.
So you're apt to have more kids 19
interesting.
that have babies.
And in Utah,
maybe
they
even,
could be married.
Maybe even are married.
Yeah.
18 or 19, got married out of high school. It doesn't break it down that way.
Okay.
It just breaks it down by teen.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
In the remaining 30, 40 seconds, Lois, can you tell us what areas we need to work on? If you were to articulate 2 or 3 areas where we really need
housing
some help.
costs, education proficiency, those are probably where I would really focus right now if I were looking at it, the cost of living for families. And I think I would also focus maybe on providing some parental supports that just bolster the whole family.
Housing costs, you mean the fact that housing in Utah
is so high.
Skyrocketed.
You can't, it's skyrocketing. And in fact, young people are going to be leaving the state because they can't afford to live here.
Right.
And that gets rid of our future growth.
Affordable housing is an issue we've talked about multiple times.
Oh, I bet.
It comes up all the time. Yeah, it's an issue.
Lois, we have you here today. Can you stick around for another segment?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Always fun.
We'll have Lois back with us after this break. Stay with us.
It's been so important in this news show to hear how the news is impacting you.
Midday.
How this is really going to impact your life. or your children's safety, or your husband's job, to hear that wow moment from you.
Midday with Maria Shilaos.
I invite you to join us from noon to 3 right here on KSL News Radio.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 five-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
When you crash your car, you get it fixed. When your computer crashes, you get a new one. But what will you do if you've been saving in a 401k or an IRA and the market crashes? If you're in your 30s or 40s, you'll be just fine. But if you're in or near retirement, you could be in trouble. Mike Stevens and his team at Capital Wealth Advisors are here to help. They can run a risk analysis to see if you're too heavily invested in the market. Don't let the ups and downs of Wall Street control you or your retirement dreams. Call 801-210-5500 today to schedule your risk analysis with Mike Stevens and the team at Capital Wealth Advisors. That's 801-210-5500. Crashes happen. Question is, are you ready? Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Are you struggling with pain in your feet, ankles, knees, hips, or lower back? At the Good Feet store, we recommend having high-quality support in all of your shoes. Our personalized arch support system has helped countless people find relief, like Karen. Here is her Good Feet story.
After I decided my pain was too much, and my doctor actually suggested that I do visit the Good Feet store. Pretty amazing when they put the arch supports in your shoe and you walk around and you realize there's not pain and you think, how can this arch support in my shoe make my back pain go away? But it works. And how can it make my knee pain go away? It was incredible.
Come to the Good Feet store today and see what we can do for you. Good Feet arch supports are in stock and available in over 300 different styles and sizes.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Stop in today at the Good Feet store.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Now there's a new way to take charge of your blood sugar. Introducing new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula from the makers of the nation's best-selling garlic supplement. New Garlic helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels with clinically supported levels of garlic, plus a custom blend of vitamins and minerals, and it's odor-free. Take charge of your blood sugar with new Garlic Healthy Blood Sugar Formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Use as directed.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
The new Inside Sources.
I'm Holly Richardson, and I'm in studio with Greg Skordas and our guest Lois Collins from the Deseret News. And we just had a segment talking about children's health in Utah, but not just health, but economic well-being. And where we rank, we're number 4 in the nation, so we're doing well in that category, have some room for improvement. But I want to talk about this story that Lois wrote with this killer headline.
It's interesting. You have to read it after you look at the headline.
I know. The headline is, the first headline, If Books Could Kill. Lois, tell us about this.
Well, first I should tell you that I stole the headline from someone more clever than I am, because you can't copyright those. But it turns out that if you are someone who loves books and you've collected old books and you have books that are emerald green in your collection, they may contain arsenic and copper, and it's not really good for you. So especially if you're someone who handles your books a lot, that's potentially really, really problematic. And our libraries are shrinking because as libraries have become aware of this, they've started setting books aside. There's a library in Germany that took 60,000 emerald green books and put them in quarantine where nobody can get hold of them until they can be tested. But up until now, testing to see if your book cover is made of arsenic and other delights, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And so now the University of St. Andrews in Scotland has come up with a new tool that in a matter of seconds can tell you if your book cover, and it's not always the whole cover. These are cloth-covered books. It's not always the whole cover. It might be like a decorative inset or whatever that's got that beautiful bright green color, or if it's really old, which they are, faded bright green color, not so bright, is arsenic containing. So now they can shine lights on it. They do almost like a spectrography thing where they shine different colored lights on it, and there's a specific fingerprint that comes from this arsenic containing compound, this paint that made it bright green.
So there's something about the arsenic that chemically made the color more enhanced. So you're looking at, is it, I mean, not necessarily limited outright, but we're thinking about emerald green book covers.
Emerald green book covers, cloth book covers for the most part. Sometimes it's not a cloth book cover, but one that has like a little cloth decorative element that's bright green. And they were most common, and they were extremely common in the 1840s to the 1860s.
I bet they looked beautiful on bookshelves, right?
Oh, I'm sure they were gorgeous. And it was just, they discovered that when they infused this arsenic and this copper together, neither one of which is really great for you to handle constantly, then you had this beautiful bright color that was so popular. And in fact, I have 2 or 3 of these books that I suspect might be.
Do you really? Wow.
And I love old books, and so you don't know. But it's really interesting because now they can check for it in a matter of seconds, but it's a brand new technology, so it's not been really widely available yet. I'm sure it will be. And in the past, they had to use X-ray fluoroscope to check, and that was super time-consuming and super expensive, and it was easier to just put all these books aside.
Arsenic and old books.
Yeah, so it's not that we're an old group here, the 3 of us, but we've been
exposed.
We've been exposed to these green books now for a long time, I assume. I mean, if they're
I don't read books usually from the 1840s, but
it depends. Like I had some of my great grandmother's books, so I do have some of these. The chance that you or I, casual readers, have any health effect from this are pretty small. If it's on a lower shelf and you've got a little kid that likes to lick book covers, that's probably a bad thing. And if you are somebody who works at a library or who does a lot of research into old books and you handle these all the time, then there's potential for some ill effects, some skin effects. There's an increase in skin cancers. There's an increased risk of a couple of types of cancer. It's still a fairly small risk, but there is that risk, and it can be quite harmful to kidneys and liver function.
Who would have thought?
I know, right? So you may not know the answer to this question, but I know with older books, a lot of times there's acid in our skin, and so people will wear protective gloves. Would that protect?
The nitrile gloves are a must if you've got an emerald green book. There's, and what else are you going to do besides take those precautions? Unless you're going to throw the book away somehow, and I don't even know how you would begin to dispose of your collection.
Then you have to call hazmat.
Emerald green books, especially if you had 60,000 of them.
Yeah.
we have bookcases in our home, and my wife loves to put old books in them. I mean, she'll collect old books. I got to go take a look at them tonight and see what I'm trying to think of emerald green. You keep describing it as a bright green color.
Well, they call it emerald green, but I've seen enough old books to know that there are different hues. It could be anything from kind of a limeish green to a really, really bright, depending on how it was cared for and if it was exposed to sunlight. And I don't know, maybe there's a difference in how much arsenic you put in your killer book.
Right.
I don't know.
And I don't pretend to be a chemist by any means, but I would assume there's not much you can do about it. I mean, it's not like you can treat the book cover and make it less.
No, I think you could probably maybe get a clear book cover of some sort and put it over it and sort of contain it. It's easy to use.
Also time intensive. Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of, it makes me sad because I do love old books and I don't want to have to look at them with suspicion.
Right. Well, a European library, right, with 60,000 that are no longer touchable, seeable, usable. Hopefully they'll be able to
hopefully some of them are. When they test them, hopefully they'll
Interesting.
find that they put aside books that they didn't need to put aside. So that's one of the values, is maybe returning some of these books to the front lines of being loved.
Yeah.
So do you suppose that they're contacting libraries and facilities that have books and saying, hey, you should be careful for these books? I mean, you mentioned Germany's pulled hundreds of thousands of books
This
off their
has
shelves.
been known for quite a while now, and they've been working on it. So there's like this working group, and I can't think of the name of it. It's some long, weird, you know how working groups are. They get these weird names. But there's a group that's an international group that's been working on what do we do about this and how do we sort them and what's the best practice and stuff for quite some time. And I suspect that now that there's a tool that has been shown to sort these fairly quickly, nobody will have to reach out to the libraries. The libraries will be reaching out to the people with the technology.
I think one of the things in your article that I also find is interesting is that this green color, was used in wallpapers.
Yes. Yes. That was where that was in
and
an
textiles.
Era. Well, yeah, that was an era where we put it in our wallpaper and we put it in our curtains, and then we used lead paint for trim.
And asbestos, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
And red food coloring.
You're right. As we go, we
right.
learn, I
Yes.
guess. So,
As we go, we learn.
Interesting. Well, I think that Holly and I need to go look at our libraries tonight, and our listeners need to be aware that if you have emerald green books, just set them aside or put something over them, right, Lois? And
yeah,
you don't want to throw them
don't
away.
I can't even imagine throwing away a book
that's 100
like
years
that.
old.
Yeah,
Right.
I can't see doing that. Almost 200 years old now. I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
see doing that. There's got to be another way, but there are precautions you can take.
Put it on the high shelf. Keep it away from the kids.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have just another minute, but how did they come up with discovering this light?
So they use technology that they use to check for minerals in rocks and in soil. So it involved some geology experts as well as librarians, and they started talking about it. What do we do? And the museum and library at University of St. Andrews was given the charge to try to come up with something.
Wow.
And they got a group of people together and talked about it and started testing things. And they did a ton of testing with the light spectrography that they were using. And that may not be the right word, but it's the word I choose to use. And they started doing a lot of testing with that. And they found that there was a very unique, very distinctive fingerprint in the way the light reflected. And they went, oh my gosh, we could make this into a portable device.
Wow.
And this will work.
Wow. That's so interesting. And it makes me think that we've had this conversation on AI recently, and it makes me think that's one of the things that AI can't really do. At least not at this point, right? It can't iterate and look and say, okay, what are all these creative different ways we can approach this problem?
I think there are a lot of things that AI can't do. And I'm convinced, actually, that it's really not that great a speller sometimes.
I know, right?
So
I agree. It can't catch nuances sometimes,
I haven't
for
even
sure.
started using it yet. Well, Lois, thanks for joining us. And hopefully, this is our second day. Hopefully you'll be with us more often.
A regular... I plan on a regular visit from Lois Collins from the Deseret News.
Always happy to play with you guys.
Great. Thank you so much. When we come back after the break, let's talk water. How do you feel about that, Holly? Water managers say they're concerned about how much water is being used this early in the summer. I think we've become a little complacent. We'll talk about that after the break.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. KSL's top story this hour, a Lehigh subdivision is being told to limit how often they water their lawns. KSL News Radio's Randall Jepson has more.
There's a new pressurized irrigation reservoir that's being built on Traverse Mountain that supplies secondary water to the Violetto neighborhood. The problem is, it was supposed to be finished in April. It's not done yet. That means people right now are using culinary water for their lawns. The city says that's not sustainable long term, and people in that neighborhood are being told to only water their lawns 2 days a week and not to put in sod.
The city hopes to have the irrigation reservoir up and running by July 1st. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is on Capitol Hill today, taking questions from members of a House Appropriations Committee. But also being brought up, the decision by the Trump administration to deploy National Guard troops and Marines in California.
You asked about the situation in Los Angeles, and we believe ICE agents should be allowed to be safe in doing their operations, and we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them in the execution of their duties.
Protesters have been demonstrating against the ICE raids in Los Angeles for several days now, and some of the protests have turned violent. A black bear wandering around the Ogden Valley has been captured and euthanized. The DWR says the animal was looking into the windows of homes and trying to get through the door of some cabins. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 70 points right now. We're at 42,835. Coming up, a few clouds today and hot. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part one in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result? Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done. This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner. Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to Soda, just amazing.
I started on Soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. And here's Michelle Rowe.
Lane restrictions still slowing down traffic southbound I-15 in the Kaysville area as you're approaching Shepherd Lane. Other than that, I-15 running very smoothly across the Wasatch Front. Still also looking at a little bit of slowing left over eastbound I-80 as you're going between Kimball Junction and Silver Summit. Garden City, Utah and beautiful Bear Lake presents Little Texas on July 5th at Garden City Heritage Park. Games, live music, and fireworks show, all free. Visit bearlake.org for details. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We've got above normal temperatures for mid-June all through this week with a high today of 94 degrees. Right now it's already 81 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
We're coming off a winter when we didn't see a huge amount of snow, but we're looking at some of our reservoirs. They seem to be okay. Water managers in Salt Lake Valley, however, are saying that there's a 15% rise in how much water people are using, which is a 12.5% rise from the previous year. We had been thinking, Holly, about water conservation, cutting back. I thought we were doing a pretty good job. Maybe not so much. Let's turn to KSL News Radio's Adam Small for more details.
That's according to the Jordan Valley Conservancy District, who says that's on top of the 12.5% increase they were seeing a year earlier. Water managers tell KSL.com part of the reason for this is likely because of how hot and dry it's been so far this spring, but they also attribute it to what they're calling conservation fatigue from the past few years of drought.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. People thinking, hey, I'm tired of looking at my brown lawn. I want some flowers again. We're joined this morning by Kelly Good, Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District head. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And so, am I right, or did we get complacent over the last couple of years when we had a little bit more snow than we'd expected, and looking at our brown lawns, thinking, hey, it's time to start watering again?
Yeah, complacent maybe is a little harsh of a term, but we are seeing water use behaviors kind of go back up to what they were prior to our big drought that we saw a few years ago. And what we're trying to promote is to just keep water use a little bit, tamped down and make sure we're using what we need to.
How much of a concern is this for you, this increase that we're seeing? And it's pretty early I would say in the summer.
Right. So it's not a concern in terms of our water supply for this year. We have our reservoirs are pretty full. We've had really good snowpack the last several years, but our reservoirs kind of lag about a year behind the snowpack. So the water that's in there right now is really because we've had such good years in 2022 and 2023, 2024 for snow. And what we don't want to see is us drain our reservoirs this year and then have nothing available to us for next summer.
Kelly, what can water conservancy districts like yours do in terms of telling homeowners water on certain days, don't water on this day? I mean, are there policies and things that you can put in place? And if so, do people tend to follow those?
We don't have any policies in place like that currently. Those would only come into place if we are in really severe drought conditions. And we're not. Like I said, it's not a crisis by any means. It's more just concerning to see the rise in water use when we know we can kind of keep it more steady. And that's all we're encouraging people to do is to water, maybe 3 times per week, use it wisely, don't water your sidewalk, that sort of thing.
So what are some other maybe common sense things that we can do to save water in our own homes?
So I think the biggest one is to make sure that your sprinklers are running properly. So most of our water use is outside, especially this time of year. It's about 60% of our use. So if you haven't yet, make sure your sprinklers aren't broken, they're not watering the street or your neighbor's car. Water in the early mornings or in the late evenings, not in the hot or windy parts of the day. Another easy one is to just raise your lawnmower blades a little bit higher. Longer grass can withstand a little bit more or a little less water because it keeps the moisture in, it keeps its own roots cool. So raising your lawnmower blades is another really easy way to just kind of lessen your water need.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I live in an area with secondary water, and we now have the meter placed on it, so we know exactly how much we're using. It's a little intimidating.
Yeah, it's good to have that knowledge. And so I do encourage everyone to kind of see how their water use compares maybe to their own selves from last year. And the best challenge would be to see if you can beat what you did last year. Because, again, we have plenty of water, so we don't need to be, put austerity measures into place, but we do just want to not waste it either.
Kelly, it seems that and maybe I'm wrong, I don't pretend to be a water expert, but the basin for the Jordan Valley Conservancy District and maybe a benchmark to me would be the Great Salt Lake, which we always think of as, or at least we have for the last 3 or 4 years, think of as in trouble and struggling. And can you tell our listeners, and maybe this isn't part of your wheelhouse, what's going on with the Great Salt Lake right now?
So the Great Salt Lake is our watershed basin here in the Salt Lake Valley that does receive. It's the terminal point of the water, and it is a lot lower than it has been in, its history. I think it's a little bit higher than its historic low in 2022. I don't have the exact numbers. But Jordan Valley has been working with the Great Salt Lake Trust to donate water and lease water shares when available to Great Salt Lake. We kind of do that in the fall at the end of the irrigation season. So another incentive for conserving water is if we're able to kind of meet our conservation benchmarks, then we may be able to send additional water to Great Salt Lake this fall.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kelly. This is Kelly Good, Community Engagement Department Manager with the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District. So I have a question for you, Greg. What do you do to save water?
Oh, we live in an area up in the Ogden Valley that they monitor fairly closely, and we get bills every month that shows our water usage. And in fact, we had a leak or something. We got a notice from them saying, "Hey, you're using more of the water than you should." So we had a plumber come up and actually fix it. It was one of our basins that was slowly leaking. So we don't have a lot of water up in the Ogden Valley, and what concerns me the most up there is the fact that it's a growing area, and at some point there's got to be some water. I don't know how all these homes that are being built up there are going to be serviced by water.
Yeah, I think that's always part of the conversation when we talk about housing and growth in Utah, right? Is what do you do with water? Because we do live in a drier state for sure. I have a water story. It's kind of a horror story. So we had a toilet one time in our house that was leaking, and it just ran, right? It wasn't leaking on the floor. It just was a toilet that ran. And when I got my water bill after it ran for a month without us doing anything, it was over $1,000.
Ouch.
And I called my city and I said, "What is this?" And they said, "Well, it could be from this or from this." And I said, "Well, I do have a running water toilet, but I calculated how much water usage you said I had, and it would have filled an Olympic-sized swimming pool just from a running toilet." We've never made that mistake again.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of what we had. I really think, and I think Kelly was really helpful, but I'm a little more pessimistic. I think we're still in a severe drought cycle. I think that Utah is going to continue to be hot. It's going to continue to have drought. Our reservoirs, they're full, but if you look at the way that they're spaced out, I mean, there's a lot of evaporative water loss. And I think the Great Salt Lake, if that dries up, we're in deep trouble because we rely on that water, the lake effect, the water that comes off of that
for snow
to
in the
fuel
winter.
our snow, which is the water that we use during the summer. So, I mean, I think we still need to be careful. I asked her about the conservation, and she said that they're not restricting homeowners to water on certain days or not to water. They know far more about this than I do. But to me, we should still be putting some restrictions in place.
Well, we can do that personally, right? And I know Southern Utah is struggling a lot more with water this year than the Wasatch Front. So it is a concern.
When we come back after the break, this is sort of a subject that's near and dear to me only because I go to jails as a part of my work fairly often, and the Utah County Jail has a new program for inmates to earn their food handler's permit. We will learn more about that from the Utah County Commission next.
Look Looking for something fun to do? Then elevate your excitement this summer at the Utah Olympic Park with a Gold Pass. Feel the adrenaline rush of reaching speeds up to 50 miles per hour on extreme tubing. Fly high above the treetops on zip lines. Take a ride down the famous Alpine Slide. All the amazing summer activities are open daily from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Details and tickets for the ultimate Gold Pass this summer. Visit UtahOlympicLegacy.org. That's UtahOlympicLegacy.org. Feeling a little adventurous? Why not try a summer bobsled experience? It's the ride of a lifetime. The Summer Bobsled Experience lets you cruise down the full-length Olympic track used during the 2022 Olympic Winter Games. Driven by a professional pilot, you'll experience 15 turns and reach speeds up to 65 miles per hour. It's truly a ride unlike any other. Details at UtahOlympicLegacy.org. UtahOlympicLegacy.org.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Summertime is a fun time for everyone, and ARUP Blood Services is here to help the community stay safe and enjoy the season. Did you know the need for blood increases significantly during the summer months when people become more active with hiking, boating, blading, skateboarding, and ARUP is always there to help when someone is in need. That means the hospitals need you even more for blood donations. ARUP Blood Services is here locally in Utah to help. Donating with ARUP Blood Services ensures 100% of your donation stays here in Utah for patients that need it most. Can you spare 20 or 30 minutes? You can be entered to win a $1,500 Disney gift card, good for theme parks, restaurants, resorts, and shopping. One lucky donor will win, plus other great incentives throughout the month. Plan to stop by the Sandy Donor Center on June 14th to see the AirMed helicopter between 10 and 1 p.m. Visit utahblood.org for details, donation times, and more. That's utahblood.org.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out collection letters, garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it even harder to get out of debt. Don't let tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in taxpayer assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Let them fight on your behalf, helping to put your tax problems to rest. Call the tax professionals at Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. Be the someone who gives their time. Be the someone who lends an ear. Be the someone who takes a step. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN, asking you to join the fight against sexual violence and volunteer in your community. Log on to RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org, to learn how you can be the someone.
This message brought to you by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network and this station.
Matthew.
Huh? Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I just need you to listen to me.
I know that a lot of times, Mom, it might not seem like I'm listening to you, but I am. I hear you. And what you say really does matter to me.
I mean, let's be honest. No kid likes rules, but I get why we have them. I hear you, and I know it's because you care.
All the talks we've had over the years, including what you've told me about not using alcohol and other drugs, they stick with me. And believe it or not, they really do make a difference, especially at times that matter most.
Hey, want a drink?
No thanks, I'm good. So thank you, Dad, for talking and preparing me for what's ahead.
Thanks, Mom, for never giving up and always being my biggest fan.
Thank you for letting me know what you expect, so I can try to meet your expectations.
Thank you for talking.
For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Inside Sources.
Holly, have you ever had a food handler's permit?
I have, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have to get one at least some point in our lives.
Right?
In fact, recently I was doing some work with our drug court community here, and we got a permit at one of the parks to do a summer event, and we had barbecue and all that stuff, and the county said, "Yo, Skordas, where's your food handler permit?" So I went and got one. Well, the Utah County Jail has a new program for inmates to earn their food handler's permit, and I think this is a really interesting subject, and I'm happy to talk about it. We're lucky to have with us this morning Utah County Commissioner Skylar Beltran. Skylar, thanks for joining us this morning, and tell our listeners about this program.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. It's a great new program. I took office a couple months ago, and in my tour around the county, I went to visit the jail and went through our kitchen area at the jail, and it's a very robust kitchen. We serve Meals on Wheels every single day. They make the food for all their own inmates. They make the food for deputies' lunches and dinners, and so it's a very good program. And I asked, do we do food handlers permits for our inmates? They're learning a lot of skills, and they said no. We've explored it in the past, but we had some hurdles. So I took that on as my first big project. I said, let's figure it out. So we got the health department together, the sheriff's office, the commission office, and we formed the program. So now our inmates will be able to earn the program while working in the kitchen.
Commissioner Beltran, I live in Utah County, so thank you for representing me. But one of the things, just on its surface, it just makes so much sense to say, of course, if you're working in the kitchen and you're doing all these things, and I didn't know they did Meals on Wheels and meals for deputies. I didn't know that. But it makes sense to say, yeah, they need to have their food handler's permit, and it's not incredibly difficult to get. So I was initially surprised to see that there were hurdles.
Yeah, so it's actually fairly easy. It's a 75-minute course. And we have it set up so they can learn on their tablet. During their free time when they have their tablet, they're able to practice for the test. So they need to take a 75-minute course, and our deputies needed to get certified to be able to teach the course. And so they'll go to a 75-minute course. They'll be able to practice on their tablet, and then they'll take a test. And they need to get 75% on the test, and it's mostly about foodborne illnesses and proper cleanliness in the kitchen. And, it seems easy to us to do, but some of these inmates, lowering the barrier to accomplish or receive this kind of accolade really goes a long way. If we tell somebody who doesn't, have a big education or a support system and that they need to take a 75-minute course, pay $50 in a private education facility, and then take a test at an off-site location, that might be a lot of hurdles for them.
Yeah.
But if we can do that all in-house, then we can let them, have a piece of workforce on the way out.
Commissioner Beltran, I don't know that a lot of our listeners appreciate this, but our jails have to have kitchens. They have to have areas where they're fixing the meals for the inmates, where they're fixing, 3 meals a day. And they're often staffed, in my opinion, by the inmates. In fact, some inmates get good time. They get break. They get what they call a trustee position for working in the kitchen. What I didn't realize is that you also prepare meals for others. This Meals on Wheels. I mean, you must have a pretty robust kitchen out there.
Yeah, we serve thousands of meals every single month for Meals on Wheels, and they have to prepare them early in the morning. So Mountain Land Association of Governments and Meals on Wheels program can go pick them up. And the kitchen is so robust that we may have a senior who can't chew very well, and it needs their meal for the day needs to be cut up additional, more times than a normal meal. The inmates will do that and package it separately for them, so they learn really good kitchen skills.
Can you speak a little bit to the not only the motivation behind you wanting to see this happening, but how does this impact their lives as they maybe think about leaving the jail system?
Yeah, so the fact that they have, a piece of paper that lets them go to work the next day, that's very significant. So it helps them with the skill. It helps the community through recidivism. Our goal, our most expensive thing is incarceration. So we can keep people out of the jail. That is the best thing for society. And it also helps with our labor market. There's always a shortage of restaurant workers, fast food. All of those tasks need a food handler's permit. And so we can also help our local businesses with labor.
And are you getting a good response from the inmates? That is to say, hey, you have an opportunity to work in the kitchen. You could take this food handler's class and you could work in the kitchen. I mean, isn't it a way for them to sort of get out of their cell and to do something productive? And I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is I assume you're getting some support from the inmates and people that want to do this as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a privilege to work in the kitchen to begin with, and then this will be an additional privilege on top of that. And we have 3 inmates already in the program, and we may have our first graduate in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that'll be very exciting.
I guess I was surprised a little bit that if you were preparing meals for others, Meals on Wheels, that there wasn't some requirement for that already. Right. I assume your staff, maybe some of the staff and some of the people that are preparing the meals in the kitchen have these things. But for the inmates to do that, it just seems, Commissioner, that this is a great program. And I hope that you continue to do this. And maybe it sounds like you're new to the county commission, and maybe you're looking at other ideas and other things to do for inmates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My portfolio includes the Attorney's Office, Children's Justice, a criminal coordinating council. I have a lot of criminal justice in my portfolio, and we're always looking to better streamline that process, both as the economic cost savings, but also recidivism and, making the best opportunity for our residents.
Thank you for joining us today, Commissioner Beltran. And this really common sense solution is, I think, a really great thing and will make a big difference. All right. What other common sense things have you seen?
I think I really like this. I'll tell you, I go to jails all the time, and
you should clarify that.
I've even eaten there a few times. The inmates they'll fix you a meal, and I remember when they built the new Oxbow jail out in the West Valley area. They said, "You got to come here. They got the best bakery. They got the best this. They got and it really was good. And the meals are prepared by the inmates. It's a privilege to be able to work in the kitchen. It's a privilege to be able to work in the laundry. It's a privilege to be able to do certain things. Yeah. And sometimes it's rewarded by a little bit additional good time. You can get good time taken off your sentence if you're doing things at the jail. I also think that there are reading programs where you can help other inmates learn to read. There was a program in Salt Lake County called Booked.
Oh.
Literally you're booked in the jail, but you're also reading books and you're learning how to read. There are just a lot of things going on. So yeah, good program, good idea. I hope that works out well. When we come back after the break, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, and this is, I see it on every screen today, right. Holly, has removed every member from the CDC Advisory Committee dealing with vaccinations. We're going to talk with our newest Congressman, Mike Kennedy, after the break to talk about this and a lot of other things that he's doing in Congress and what's going on in our country.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jessica Lowell. KSL's top story this hour. Corey Richens' trial will stay in Summit County. The Camas mother, accused of poisoning her husband, had filed an appeal to the state Supreme Court asking for her trial to be moved to Salt Lake County. Her lawyers argued she wouldn't be able to get a fair jury in Summit County because of the media coverage. That appeal was denied. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The top Republican in the U.S. House says California's governor should be tarred and feathered for his state's handling of the ICE protests.
The House Speaker says his party stands squarely behind the president's decision to federalize the California National Guard and to mobilize hundreds of active duty Marines.
Do your job, man. That's what I tell Gavin Newsom.
Mike Johnson tells reporters he isn't sure if California's governor should be arrested, which is something President Trump said would be great.
But he ought to be tarred and feathered, I'll say that.
Newsom responded on X, calling the reference to the colonial punishment a fitting threat, quote, given the GOP want to bring our country back to the 18th century. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
And an update on the hundreds of Marines that were deployed to L.A. AP reports they've not yet been called to respond to the city's immigration protests and are only there to protect federal property. And your money at this moment, markets up today, Dow up 117 points. Coming up, highs stay in the 90s. KSL weather is next. KSL News time, 11:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, I was there for opening night of 12 Angry Men at Hale Center Theater. When Mark Dietlein introduced the opening night performance, he said, boy, you know, we rarely present something like this at Hale Center Theater. It is a true drama, and Mark was absolutely right. The angst you feel, the prejudice you feel, the despair almost, and even the heartbreak of a father concerned about a son, it all goes into the deliberation of this jury that is going to decide whether a man lives or dies. And unfolding on the stage, we see what one person can do. 12 Angry Men, you've got to see it at Hale Center Theater. And right now, just down the hall, we couldn't go for a bigger difference when we're talking about Finding Neverland. 2 wonderful performances are underway right now at Hale Center Theater. Get your tickets. Go to hct.org. And don't miss 12 Angry Men.
Imagine waking up every morning with a smile you're proud of. No more hiding, no more pain. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's Best of State winner for 3 years in a row, has helped thousands of people ditch the dentures and say goodbye to missing or broken teeth. Their expert team specializes in giving you a permanent, natural-looking smile with dental implants that feel and function just like real teeth. With over 2,000 5-star Google reviews, their patients say it best.
Dental implants gave me my life back. I feel confident again. I feel like I can be myself.
There was no way I was getting dentures. Getting dental implants from Stubbs Dental has been the best decision of my life.
Let the expert team at Stubbs Dental help you take the first step to changing your life with dental implants. Schedule your complimentary consultation today, a $350 value, absolutely free. Visit StubbsDental.com today. That's StubbsDental.com. StubbsDental.com.
Looking for reliable home services you can actually count on? I've got just the team for you. Mountain Home Services. They've been serving Utah since 1954 with honest, upfront pricing and zero hidden fees. Plus, they back every job with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. With summer heating up, now's the time to get your AC in shape. Mountain Home Services delivers fast, expert air conditioning service to keep your home cool and comfortable. And don't forget, they also handle electrical and plumbing work with the same trusted care. And here's the best part. KSL listeners get exclusive limited-time specials, but you have to call and ask. These deals won't last, so don't miss your chance to save. Call 801-543-2222 today and tell them KSL sent you. That's 801-543-2222 or visit mountainhomeservices.com. Get the service you need and the deal you deserve.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Looking at delays for drivers southbound I-15 going through Kaysville due to lane restrictions. That right lane does have those orange barrels blocking it off. Looking at the delays again as you're approaching Shepherd Lane, backing up well into Kaysville. For drivers that are on the rest of I-15 across the Wasatch Front, looking good, but we do have a crash. This is southbound Bangerter Highway at 4100 South, and an ambulance has just pulled up and it is blocking that right lane. When you need the financial products and services for every stage of life, Cyprus Credit Union is there for whatever the future holds. Visit cypruscu.com today. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to stay hot, highs in the mid-90s through the weekend. Right now, it's 83 degrees and fair. I'm Jessica Lowell from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So, Greg, news breaking, I think yesterday, it was that the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has fired all 17 members of the CDC Vaccine Advisory Committee. That seems to be concerning, right? But we are actually really lucky to have on the line with us today Congressman Mike Kennedy, who I've known for quite a long time. Welcome, Congressman Kennedy.
Holly and Greg, it's good to be with you. How are you today?
So good. Look, we're going to start right out the gate asking you about this this new news with RFK Jr. And I'll say first, you're not related. Is that correct?
I'm not related. My distant cousin, though, I guess on some level,
Probably,
maybe.
Right? You got to go back far enough. Well, you have this really interesting background as both an attorney and a practicing doctor for the last 25 years. What do you make of this firing of all 17 members of the Vaccine Advisory Committee?
I've never seen anything like this. I'm sure you haven't either. And it is one of those things to ask the question, who are these people? What length of term have they served? I have found out that most of these people were appointed in 2024 under President Biden. And the reality, Holly, that we need to think about is vaccine skepticism is present much longer than just the firing of these individuals. There are a lot of people through COVID that watched vaccines promulgated and pushed on society without any evidence. For example, and Holly, I know you're a midwife, is pregnant ladies, it was certified safe for pregnant ladies and their babies before 9 months had even elapsed as to the vaccines being released for COVID-19 vaccines. So the reality is the pharmaceutical industry needs to come to task with their COVID approach. And as to these individuals, they do serve at the behest of the president. And if the president wants to get new people in, let's just make sure they're highly qualified and capable individuals.
So is that where you think this is going, Congressman? That is to say that the CDC Advisory Committee is not just dead, but it's about to take on a different persona, that there will be other people appointed to that, and we'll still be talking about
Absolutely, and
vaccines.
I'm deeply invested in making sure those people are highly qualified and capable. We want a non-ideologically based, we want a scientifically based committee that actually does the job. And if there are, as Secretary Kennedy asserts, some people that are connected to the industry and actually making money off of vaccines that they are actually recommending, then we ought to be, as a society, very careful about that. I want neutral parties that are deeply invested in good science, and that they should not just be pushing forward a political ideology, particularly in this area.
Can I ask you a follow-up question then on highly qualified? What does that look like to you?
So I'm an MD as well as a JD. I went to law school and medical school, but I'm not a PhD in molecular biology. I'm not an immunologist either. And I would expect all these people to have spent a lot of years in education training programs. Many of them are likely to be MDs, if not all of them. DOs, of course, could be part of that as well, but they often MD, PhD are the type of people that are in these programs. And then Holly and Greg, what I would like to see is that they've got a long life experience as well, and that they're not connected to the industry. They're not making money off of patents that they've been involved in for vaccines. So these are the kind of people that are neutral and giving good advice to our citizens as they're not sure what they should do with one thing or the other.
Congressman Kennedy, we're watching a lot, and talked a lot about what's going on in Los Angeles right now, and I'm just wondering what the talk is on the Hill with respect to what's happening there and whether or not Congress may be jumping in at some point.
Congress, we are slow to jump in on everything because there's 435 of us. And when it comes to the president, I think you're seeing a president between 2016 and 2020. He dealt with a lot of these riots, and he's coming out strong this time, where a lot of these things were left to fester, waiting for states to take charge. And as your listeners know, many times California is not the best example of actually promoting lawful behavior. They let things happen and they escalate out of control. I think back to when I was a child, Rodney King and those riots, they were way out of control. And George Bush did call in the National Guard to actually handle that because of the outrageous behavior of some of those people. And so I think we need to be strong, but certainly I'm a big fan as a state legislator of state sovereignty. I believe that the federal government and the state ought to work in tandem to promote lawful behavior and defeat violence and unlawful behavior.
So we've talked about this a couple of times on the show yesterday and today. We've had a 2-day run so far. But we've talked about that conflict between states' rights, 10th Amendment rights, and the governor of a state being actually the commanding officer for the National Guard. And now we have, it seems like, I mean, certainly Gavin Newsom is saying, look, we had this under control and sending in the National Guard. Now we've got up to 4,000 National Guard members activated and 700 Marines. They're saying in California, this is an escalation that didn't need to happen. Are you feeling like the president was justified in stepping in so quickly?
Not being there myself, it is hard for me to judge, hard for all of us, because we live in a law-abiding state with good people that rarely you see in some communities in our state these kind of behaviors. But I know Governor Cox and his administration, they stand for law and order in the face of chaos. And our good law enforcement individuals, they step up in a firm way when there's misbehaviors like this. In California's case, and we can think back not that far ago, that these sort of behaviors were left they were left unattended to, and they became conflagrations instead of the minor incidents that they should be. And I'll just be honest, Gavin Newsom, over the course of his political career, I've not been impressed with Governor Newsom and how he approaches things. So I haven't been detailed on all of the reasons that President Trump stepped in with such vigorous response. But in general, I want to see lawful behavior, and for Democrats implicitly or explicitly to promote unlawful behavior, which I've seen some of my colleagues in Congress actually trying to go up to ICE headquarters and get in for oversight and only cause more trouble. I don't think that's appropriate to promote these kind of behaviors when people are burning cars, whether people are in them or not. It's not acceptable, and there needs to be a strong response.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Representative, and it's nice to have you. I haven't addressed him since he's been our latest congressman, but hopefully you're enjoying your time up on the Hill. And boy, it's been an exciting first 4 months.
And there's a lot of great people up here trying to do good work, and people say, "How come you're not doing this, that, and the other?" And it's you need 218 votes, and you have to go through committees, and we're not at the top of the process, just ordering people around like we're CEOs of companies. So I'm grateful for that deliberative process, and we'll certainly look into the things that are happening and make sure that we're doing our part. But when it comes to this big beautiful bill that we're moving forward is a major step in the right direction. We've got 1.4 million illegal immigrants on Medicaid, and Holly knows better than anybody how important Medicaid is for pregnant women. And the fact is, we need to right-size Medicaid and get us moving in the right direction, which this big beautiful bill does that.
Thank you again so much for joining us. We actually have to go to breaking news right now. We've got Burl Johansson in studio with us.
Yeah, so right now we've been told the Utah County government offices are closed because of an active bomb threat at a couple of the buildings. Provo police are on scene. They say the active bomb threat is surrounding the administration building and the historic courthouse. We'll continue to kind of provide those updates as we get more information from police.
This had to be pretty fast breaking because we just had one of the Utah County Commissioners with us probably 15 minutes ago, and nothing had happened. So I know it's fast and it's something you're just learning about, but what can you tell us other than it's a bomb threat so far?
I mean, really, that's all we know at the moment. We know that some of the buildings are in lockdown in Utah County because of these bomb threats, but really, that's all the information we know. Is we know that they've closed their offices, police are on the scene investigating, and that these the active bomb threats is surrounding the administration building and the historic courthouse.
Right, I know that area very well. It's I used to go to that courthouse, and the new one's just kitty corner from there. They have the administrative offices there. They have the county attorney's office and whatnot. Thank you for joining us this morning.
We'll follow that closely.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. When we come back after the break, Congressman Blake Moore will be on the line to talk about the future of Doge without Elon Musk. Boy, that's going to be a tough one. But we're happy to have Congressman Moore with us after the break and talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Jeff Kaplan.
His Minute of News is great. It's always entertaining.
I listen to Jeff Kaplan every day.
He gives you important news and traffic and the familiar voice that helps you enjoy the ride home.
I really like Jeff's Minute of News. He's calm and he's balanced.
I really enjoy driving home and just listening to what he's got to say.
Jeff Kaplan gets me home every day.
Join the community that relies on Jeff Kaplan. He has you covered. Afternoons from 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Your electric bill is going to be higher for summer, but not if you get new windows from Advanced Window Products. State-of-the-art double-pane windows and insulated frames, any style, any color, from a company that's been building them right here in Salt Lake City for 39 years. Not only are you buying local, but you're cutting out the middleman because they're the factory. You save 30, even 40% on your new windows, and you get a lifetime guarantee from a trusted local company. If there's a problem 5 years from now, they come right over and get things straight. And right now, you can save even more. If you call Advanced Windows for a quote, they'll give you an extra $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Advanced Windows offers buy now, pay later. They have 60-month 0% financing. They always work out affordable payments, plus $2,500 off. So get your new windows for summer. Make the call now, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or you can go to advancedwindows.com.
It's Julie from the Cache Valley Visitors Bureau inviting you to come to Logan and celebrate summer right. First, this Thursday through Saturday, it's the 41st Annual Summerfest Arts Fair, and it's free. Discover 168 regional artists showcasing jewelry, fine arts, and crafts, all while you listen to live music and eat great food. 38 live performances and 30 food trucks. Did I mention Summerfest is free? Then check out free hour-long concerts at the Tabernacle downtown at noon every weekday, the free Gardeners Market on Saturdays, and the new downtown plaza with a splash pad and free concerts on Wednesdays and Fridays. Don't forget your hotel, which is not quite free, is only 10 minutes from the National Forest for hiking and biking and stunning scenery. Celebrate summer in Logan. It's not 3 hours from Salt Lake, it's only 90 minutes, so just get in a car. Dozens of unique restaurants, Cache Valley Foodie Trek, festivals and fun, Broadway performances and concerts, and small town charm. ExploreLogan.com. ExploreLogan.com.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. The pounds melt off. It's amazing.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself.
Get in the best shape of your life with Soda Weight Loss.
Just 3 weeks in, and pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Summer is right around the corner.
Your summer body starts right here because Soda's summer savings are on.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I tried other things, came to soda, just amazing.
I started on soda 8 months ago, and I have released 80 pounds now.
Summer savings, stunning results, only at Soda Weight Loss. Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com.
Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-471-9773. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-471-9773. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-471-9773. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-471-9773. That's 800-471-9773.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So we're back in studio, Greg and I'm Holly Richardson with Greg Skordas, and we are really excited to have joining us on the line Representative Blake Moore from D.C. He's the co-lead or co-chair of the Congressional Doge Caucus, and of course with the Elon Musk and Donald Trump breakup in the news recently, there's been some question about whether that's going to continue. And Congressman Moore, welcome to Inside Sources.
Thanks for having me on, as always.
I have just a funny. It caught me, the headline from the Deseret News that you said pretty much everybody knew Elon was exaggerating, right? And I would say, I don't know. I mean, here's this guy with a chainsaw. Was he exaggerating?
That's exaggeration.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually kind of talked about it in my newsletter this week. If you see something on social media, you should, take a step back and recognize that may not be the full reality of what you see. And in regards to this particular, the second you start saying the word, we're going to find $1 trillion to cut. We have a $2 trillion, almost a $2 trillion annual deficit. To be able to just come in and say we're going to find $1 trillion to cut, we're all like, well, we know this budget really well, and we know you can't actually do that with with the process involved. $1 trillion of that deficit is actually, spending on the interest on the debt. So we're not going to default on, treasury payments. And, there's so much more to the budgeting process than just coming in and saying, oh, we need to find $1 trillion. We're going to find $1 trillion. So I was asked on even Fox News, hey, Elon said he's going to find $1 trillion, and he's looking at more like 170 billion, and you guys are going to do a bill for maybe 10 billion. Is that an exaggeration? And I said, well, yeah, I think that's the case. Yeah, that would have been an exaggeration. That's probably the definition of. And I was just always hesitant when him coming in with those big numbers, saying that out there on the social media world. It just didn't reflect what the reality is of how you actually have to go about doing sustainable, long-term corrections in our very, bloated, tough budget system.
So Representative, with Musk leaving, can you talk to our listeners about what you see as the future of Doge and where we're going with that now?
Yeah, there's so many things within the Doge world that should actually garner a lot of bipartisan support, right? They tackled, and I wish they would have just focused on some of this. They tackled things like software programs, where there's a lot of duplicative work done in government software programs, and we don't need multiple systems for a similar objective. They went after this Treasury Department has payment systems that go out, and sometimes there's not even descriptions required under these payment systems. And so fixing those types of process can actually do a lot of good to save a lot of money, and really nobody should object to that type of stuff. That's what we were thinking. We were going more into this on the front end. We were excited about some of those things that they were uncovering, but it became very rhetoric-filled, and you saw a lot of partisan language coming out. You mentioned the chainsaw, right? Famously, he showed up on CPAC, which, kind of a very conservative group. These, in order for these changes to get enacted, they have to pass legislation that meets a 60-vote threshold in the Senate about sustaining change going forward. There's some things we can pull back. They only require a simple majority. and we'll be doing some of that in the next little while. But the real big changes, like there's a lot of good that can be done. So that's what we'll focus on. There's so much money going to NGOs during pandemic and during some of the immigration crisis we saw over the last few years. That money's pretty unaccounted for, and DOJ was doing a good job to account for that. So we want to pick up the good stuff that was going on. Hopefully there'll be more interactions. There hasn't been a lot of interaction between the congressional DOJ appointees. Like I was asked by the speaker to head this up, given my consulting background and more of a substantive approach. Then I'm not a guy that gets out and
with the
spreads
chainsaw.
a lot of like that kind of stuff. So we're hopeful we can find some of that stuff that can actually be sustainable going forward. And if we can uncover more of it, work together better, that would be great.
Yeah, to your point about looking for the DOJ looking for waste, fraud, and abuse, right? I don't know that there's disagreement that exists, and I think your example of duplicative computer systems, that was the kind of stuff I was hoping to see as well. And I actually come from a nonprofit background as well, and I think there was a lot of good done. But even within the nonprofit world, I don't disagree that there are things that can change, but I was really concerned with what happened with that. I'm going to take a little pivot right now and ask you about the big, beautiful bill. You had another statement in an article that I read recently that said you disagree with how much it's going to cost overall. Do you want to talk to our listeners about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a lot said about the reconciliation tax. It's largely a tax reform bill, right? I'm on the Budget Committee and the Ways and Means Committee, which did the lion's share of the work on this entire bill. So I hope to be able to serve a role to help communicate the reality here. Simply put, the Budget Committee members, we required any bill that was coming to the floor to be able to stick to the parameters of having it offset itself. So now I wish we were going out solving big portions of our deficit. But when you do a tax bill like this, honestly, the best thing that you can do is make sure that it comes in a deficit neutral way. So there's a cost to this bill, and there's some spending associated with it, defense and immigration and a few, but that's a smaller portion of the overall cost of the bill. And when you do a $4 trillion over 10 years of cost, you have to offset that, and you offset that by two ways. A, finding spending cuts and other type of revenue increasers, and we did that at the rate of $1.6 trillion over 10 years. And we also have 2.5 approximately trillion dollars over 10 years of economic growth. When you lower taxes and make taxes competitive, you actually spur some significant economic growth. The CBO wants to rate it at about 1.8, and we think that 2.6 is a very reasonable number. That's where the debate can be had, and that's where honest people can argue, well, should we go with a lower assumed growth or this 2.6 that the Republicans have put forth in this bill? I'm saying 2.6 because that's been our national average for 10 years. And since World War II, I hope there's no World War III, World War II, we've been at 3.1% real GDP growth. And I think we can excel. I think we can do better than 2.6. That's why we gave 2.6 the number, because we think we can beat it a little bit. And that's, if we do that, this bill is deficit neutral. It's not a big deficit creator because we're encouraging companies and everybody to pay taxes in the U.S. and not offshore that when you saw that happening prior to 2017.
Representative Moore, how do you think that bill looks when it comes back to the House?
Well, hopefully it looks as close as it was when it left, because we spent, a year trying to get that to the sweet spot. It's all about the sweet spot here in Washington. When you're doing a very bipartisan bill, you have a certain sweet spot that you've got to meet. But when you're doing a bill that is only going to be simple majority from the party that's in control at the time, you have to basically get everybody on board. So if we cut SALT too much, the senators will want to do. And, from a red state, low tax state, that's what I want to do too. But if we cut it too much, then we're going to lose the New York and California Republicans that are needed for the bill. SALT's going to be an issue. Some of the IRA pieces, we already decided to put every single green energy tax credit on the chopping block. They were all going to expire, but we need to take more of an off-ramp approach with some of the things, particularly in Utah. You have a unique solar industry that does a lot of good, and they provide a lot of kilowatt hours at a cheaper rate that are good for consumers of every day we're paying our utility bills. we have to take that more of a phased approach. Some we got rid of immediately, and some will have to be phased, and that's kind of what we're working on. Is just finding that sweet spot. If it comes back to the House relatively close to what we sent it over, it shouldn't be a problem. We should be able to get this done. If it's drastically different, you're going to have to go to conference, and it's going to take a lot longer.
Well, thank you again for joining us. We know you've got a vote to get to, and we really appreciate your time in breaking down some of both the future of DOJ and the big, beautiful bill and what we can expect from that.
Representative Moore, he's awesome. I think he's my representative up in the northern part of the state. So we've had Kennedy and Moore today, right. Two of our younger, really very good, of course.
Now we need the other two.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get the other two. Good for him for joining us. And he stuck around longer than than we told him. We said, hey, we'll get you out of here a little bit early, but he stuck around. So good for him. When we come back after the break on Inside Sources, we're going to talk about a phenomenon called the Financial Literacy Gender Gap. The director of Utah Women and Leadership Project, Dr. Susan Madsen, joins us next.
11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. And as breaking news, we're hearing about an active bomb threat at the administration building in historic courthouse in Provo. This is near the intersection of Center Street and University Avenue. The Utah County government says county government offices are closed, and Provo police are currently on the scene investigating. We have a KSL News Radio reporter on the way, and we will continue to bring you the very latest. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Officials in Austria say at least 9 people were killed and a dozen more injured after a school shooting in the city of Graz.
More than 300 police officers responded to the shooting. They were able to secure the scene within 17 minutes. We're also getting new details about the shooter himself. Police say he was a 21-year-old Austrian citizen, a former student of the school who never graduated. And they believe he acted alone, although they're still investigating the motive behind the shooting. Now, the governor of the region today in a press conference said it is a day of sorrow and processing the dramatic incident, and they've declared 3 days of national mourning.
ABC's Maggie Ruley reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 101 points, the S&P up 21. And coming up, highs in the 90s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Peyton was a very kind and giving person. At 15 years old, he sustained life-threatening injuries from a motorcycle accident that took his life. His family felt like Peyton would want to save others and made the decision to donate his organs. Because of their generosity, his organs saved a 2-year-old girl, a teenage boy, and others that were desperate in need of life-saving organs. Go to DonorConnect.life and read about what it takes to become a donor. Did you know many people think that they're too old or not in good enough health to be a donor? Anyone can be a donor. If you were told that it could save the life for someone close to you, or even a stranger, would you donate? Finding out more on why you should become a donor is easy. DonorConnect.life can walk you through the process and what it takes to simply sign up. Check yes to become a donor when you renew your driver's license. Give hope. Heal life. DonorConnect.life.
Nothing says summer like double rewards on your Mountain America Rewards credit card. Get 2 times the points on everything from gas and groceries to travel and home projects. Now through July 31st, 2025. Oh, wow. It's the perfect way to stretch your dollar and make summer doubly rewarding. Apply for your Mountain America Rewards credit card at macu.com/double. Loans on approved credit. Offer can change or be withdrawn at any time. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As a lineman, he does whatever it takes to keep the power on in his community. And he wants a partner like Grainger who does the same. Grainger offers the professional-grade products he needs, from voltage detectors to harnesses to hard hats, plus fast, dependable delivery, so he can rise to every challenge. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's springtime in the Rockies, and it's time to apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment. A Revive treatment with fertilization, aeration, and good watering is the key to building stronger roots for a healthy, lush green lawn. Revive fertilizes and moves water and nutrients deeper into the soil. Take advantage of spring storms with an application of Revive now. Protect yourself from drought later this summer and skyrocketing water costs. With Revive, if you water 2 times a week, it's like watering 4. Apply Revive Organic Soil Treatment today. It works.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's Double Rewards credit card promotion. Here's Ricky Meese.
Still seeing slow speeds with road work. Southbound I-15, Kaysville to Farmington. In Utah County, crews are working on a crash on the exit ramp from southbound I-15 at Highway 6 in Spanish Fork. And here in Salt Lake County, the final cleanup of an accident, northbound Bangerter Highway at 4100 South. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialist. Whipple that away. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
High of 94 today, 96 tomorrow. There's a few passing clouds, maybe an isolated mountain storm today, a small chance for a thunderstorm tomorrow. Right now it is 85 and fair. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So one of the things that's interesting in Utah is we talk a lot about how great we're doing in a lot of ways, but we also have some areas where we don't do as great. And one of the areas is in sometimes in some of the issues that women face. So we're going to have on the line with us today the founder and director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project, as well as Boulder Way Forward with Dr. Susan Madsen. But she had a recent research report on financial well-being of the women in Utah. And one of the things she talked about, and we'll have a chance to talk to her when she joins us, but this financial literacy gender gap. It actually was something that I learned about from Dr. Madsen. And what this gender gap is it's just what it sounds like. Financial literacy. How do you save for retirement? Do you have liquid savings? Are you investing in stocks and bonds? And I'll just say for myself, I know nothing about investing in stocks and bonds except for I should diversify.
And I do feel like, and I know that I don't want to sound like I'm trying to be sexist or anything, but I do feel like a lot of times women in Utah and maybe a lot of other states who become, just because I practice in the law and you've seen people go through divorce, that you see that the lack of ability to, some people just don't have the independence. They don't have the ability to suddenly go, wait a minute, I don't have this other person to be with me. And I think that was one of the things they looked at, was when you talk about women and financial literacy, the idea of now being an independent breadwinner, independent rainmaker, independent, support for your family. I know I have to be careful with this, but I do find that sometimes you have people who get in those situations and they're just not prepared for it for whatever reason.
Well, we have Dr. Madsen on the line. Dr. Madsen, it's Holly Richardson. So glad to have you join us.
Oh, great to be here. I love this conversation on women and money.
Great. Well, give our listeners some more insight into this financial literacy gender gap that you found.
Well, it's really interesting. We've been looking for new data, the data that we can have. And what's interesting is just even looking at the high school financial literacy class for many of the years as we're looking back for the last 10 years, even by the end of the class, when you're in high school, there's a gap in competence and confidence between women, the boys, young men and young women. And so we're raised in general, I blame us in terms of socialization sometimes, because even in 8th grade, we have the widest gap in the nation between girls and boys on math. So and we know it's not genetic. We know it's socialization. So there's some early things that relate to women not engaging or feeling confident in money, when in reality, we have to have women and men equally be comfortable with money, finances, and so forth.
Yeah, and so what are we lacking here in Utah? I mean, I know you don't have answers to everything here, Dr. Madsen, but what is happening with our younger people that's causing that? Do we know?
Well, there's just a lot of it socialization and the messages that get to girls versus boys and so forth. So we're seeing that as we compare to the nation. But then overall, there's a lot of, more struggles in terms of single mothers. Single mothers tend to be more, struggle more than even single fathers and families. And so, single mothers, about 38% of single mothers in the state with young children will be living in poverty. And so a lot of times, directly to your question, one of the things that we're finding is that parents today, even more than the past, in some ways are not having conversations with their kids at home and are not having conversations, even possibly, we don't have data to tell us this, with their daughters. Maybe they're talking a little more money to their sons than their daughters. So it's interesting when you look at how girls and boys are raised in terms of money and finances.
Yeah. What do you see as the impact, the longer term impact of women not understanding as much about finances as men in Utah? How does that impact us long term?
We've collected some data, but I probably talked to hundreds of women through the years that have been divorced, that have had spouses die, that have never gotten married and never thought it was important to it's a man is not a financial plan.
That's
There's
right.
That's on some stickers, right, on your cars. But that's really changed. You have to have knowledge as men and women, both, even if you have both spouses in the home or partners in the home. So, there's more financial challenges today than ever before, even in the state of Utah. We're seeing that with our housing prices and everything. Men and women are both working more for pay.
You talk about the fact that maybe parents should step up to the plate a little bit more and treat both their daughters and sons equally as you're talking about planning your future financially, and that makes perfect sense. But is there also a role, Dr. Madsen, for our schools, especially our high schools, in helping these young people understand this concept of financial independence and financial literacy?
Absolutely. I'll tell you that many years ago, I don't know how many years ago, but maybe 15, 16 years ago, I did some research on women saving money for college and when they started saving money for college. And then I really looked at the statistics. Were they the ones that went to college and graduated? To your comment about high school, what we found, though, was conversations about saving money. And for college, the people that had those conversations start in elementary school and even as far as they can remember were the ones statistically that were the ones going to college and graduating. So I would say that high school might even be a little late for these conversations, because when you start thinking about saving money, when you start thinking about the cost and the conversations that parents can have, even age-appropriate conversations, are important as early as your kids. I have twins right now that they're not me have twins. My daughter, my daughter has twins. Wow. And I'm watching, they're 21 months. And I'm watching their age, and that same family has a 6-year-old, and she's old enough. I'm thinking 3 or 4 with the other ones. We just need to talk about how saving money is important and staying out of debt if we can.
Yeah. Just in the last 60 seconds or less that we have, can you give a really quick overview of the Boulder Way Forward Summit that you just held on Friday?
Oh, Thank you for asking. So this is the launch on last Friday was the launch of year 3 of 7 years. And we had a combination, about 200 online, about 800 people there, so about 1,000 people there. And it was energetic. It was exciting. Really, the focus is how do we in Utah ensure that more girls, women, and families, which include boys and men, are thriving? How do we get the violence rates down? How do we get opportunities up? And I love that we had a lot of men. We had a lot of legislators there, including about equal numbers of men and women who really care about their own daughters and their people in their neighborhoods. So it's just was a moving, energetic, exciting to really launch into year 3 of the Boulder Way Forward Summit, movement in general.
Dr. Susan Madsen, thank you for joining the show today, and thank you for what you're doing for our community and for women in our community. Keep it up.
Thank you.
When we come back after the break, we're going to wrap up this show, and Holly and I are going to have a little bit of an interesting discussion. Stay with us.
Incredible savings on all Bernina machines at Dave's Bernina in Provo and St. George.
Don't miss our sun-kissed savings, such as $200 to $400 off machines $2,000 to $5,000, $500 to $700 off machines $5,000 to $8,000, $800 to $1,000 discounts on machines $8,000 to $15,000. And get $1,500 savings on machines $15,000 and up. Plus a limited time offer of 2.99% interest for 60 months on certain machines.
Coming now for bargains on trade-ins, classroom, and demo machines that come with warranties.
The Burnett 33 machine is only $199 and the Burnett Academy $349.
Come see the Bernina 990, the most amazing revolutionary sewing machine in the world.
With a discount up to $1,500.
Dave's Bernina, 691 East St. George Boulevard and 2017 North 550 West in Provo. Dave'sBernina.com.
Sign up for KSL Text Alerts. Get breaking news and traffic updates by texting the word news to 57500. Want access to exclusive contests? Text contest to 57500. Jazz fans, text the word jazz for breaking jazz updates. And Cougar fans, text BYU to 57500 for the latest on the Cougars. Message and data rates may apply.
This is Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. It is time for our annual spring clearance sale at Arctic Spas. Tons of hot tubs, swim spas, all-weather pools, saunas, and cold tubs all on sale at up to $7,500 off. Yes, up to $7,500 off. Just in time for the summer fun to begin. Plus, we have a few models left over from last year, like an Arctic Spa Polaris, a 7-foot by 7-foot with 40 massaging jets, 2 pumps, ozone water purification, UV water purification, multicolored LED lights, and a waterfall, now discounted to $89.95. Swim spas starting out at $19,995. This brings a pool to your backyard all year long, but especially for the family fun this summer. Comfort and convenience is on sale with our automated saltwater system. Or save even more with almost new refurbished Arctic Spas from years past. Start out online at ArcticSpasUtah.com to pick out your favorite spa. Then stop by one of our 3 Arctic Spa stores covering all of Utah: Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spas, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
You're stubborn. Okay, be stubborn. Don't admit you have hearing issues, but they won't go away. You'll just suffer with them. But you don't have to suffer. My Hearing Centers will fit you with a high-tech hearing aid that's powerful and barely noticeable. So if you're suffering from hearing loss, or if you have a hearing aid but it's 3 years or older, you owe it to yourself to schedule a free consultation at My Hearing Centers by calling 801-438-7058. With locations from Ogden to St. George, be smart, not stubborn, with My Hearing Centers.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 2021, BioHive has united Utah's life sciences and healthcare innovators. This foundational community collaborates to elevate Utah as a hub for patient impact, supporting growth and fostering a healthier future. Executive Director Amy Edwards joins us with more.
At BioHive, we build, brand, and bring together the people and companies driving Utah's life sciences and healthcare innovation. With over 1,600 companies working in biotech, diagnostics, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and digital health, we're here to connect the dots, support collaboration, and keep momentum going. But it's not just about business growth. What makes this work meaningful is the real impact it has on our community and beyond. Whether it's helping bring new treatments to market, supporting students, or mentoring future innovators, we're proud to be part of something that improves lives in tangible, meaningful ways. We focus on building partnerships, growing the local talent pipeline, branding the ecosystem, and making sure this industry stays inclusive and community-driven. At the end of the day, it's about creating a healthier future for all and showing the world what Utah can do in health and life sciences.
With BioHive's focus on collaboration, workforce development, industry growth, and community engagement, they are driving Utah's life sciences ecosystem forward. Their commitment to these pillars ensures a brighter, healthier future. Learn more at biohive.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
We're going to take a quick break away and listen to LA Mayor Karen Bass talk about days of unrest in LA. She's speaking live to us right now.
That took place on Friday, and the uncertainty and the fear and the fact that families across the city are terrified that they don't know if they should go to work, they don't know if they should go to school. We have people that were detained. We don't even know the exact numbers of the people that were detained. We have people that have not had contact with legal representation, nor have they even had contact with their families. And so there is an awful lot of concern. When the administration started, they said that this was about crime. They were going to go after violent felons, drug dealers, and I don't know how that matches with the scenes that we saw of people in Home Depot running through the parking lot because they were afraid that they were going to get arrested. You are talking about people who are trying to survive day by day, which is what a day laborer is doing, and why they would be considered as part of a problem as opposed to contributing to our economy is very difficult for me to understand. We've also received reports of people who were here legally, who were showing up for their annual appointment at the immigration office and maybe even showing up with their family and getting detained. This is just absolutely unnecessary. People have asked me, what are the Marines going to do when they get here? That's a good question. I have no idea. The National Guard that are here now have one assignment, and that is to protect one building, which is the federal building downtown. The second building, which is the federal building on Westwood Boulevard. And as far as I know, nothing has happened in Westwood at all. So this was not needed. The idea that the administration would usurp the authority of our state government, take it away from our governor, Gavin Newsom. The governor knows that if we put a request in for the National Guard and it went to him, he would comply. There was never an issue there because we were never thinking about calling upon the National Guard. So I do want you to know that the violence that has happened has required LAPD to ask for additional assistance, but not from the federal government. We are a county of 88 cities. There's a number of police departments in those cities, and we have the sheriff's department. And so we have received assistance from the California Highway Patrol. I mentioned the sheriffs from Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside, Santa Barbara, Ventura County, and a number of law enforcement departments around the county. So with them being fully deployed now, we're establishing a unified command under LAPD and Chief McDonnell, which will accelerate our ability to respond.
LA Mayor Karen Bass, who's clearly expressing her frustration with the administration's deployment of National Guard and other troops and saying, hey, this is LA, we've got this handled, and we could have this handled if you just stay out of the way. And she talked at the outset, I don't know if you, when she first started, Holly, she was talking about some of the individuals that are being rounded up. So she's looking at this at its core. She's looking at this from the ICE perspective and saying, really, what they were doing here wasn't rounding up criminals and the criminal element and people who should be deported. they're rounding up people, some of
day
whom
laborers.
day laborers, and no legal representation. The whole concept of due process, although she didn't mention those two words, it was clearly part of on the tip of her tongue. She's saying at the outset this was being handled poorly, so she's not critical of the protesters as much as she is the cause that really got this whole thing started.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, even her statement, and we mentioned this earlier in the show, but her statement when people are asking her, what are the Marines going to do? And she says, I don't know, right? There's not communication going on. At least it seems like there should be the kind of communication that should be.
And she talks about the National Guard saying, okay, they can protect the federal buildings. There are two. There's one downtown and there's one out in the burbs. And we're not having anything going on out there, so we don't need them out there.
4,000 people. And I think when we talked earlier to our reporter on the ground that joined us, there were 6 people outside the federal building. Six National Guard members. Well, you know, we're coming to the end of our show today, and I wanted to take a little bit of time and just introduce ourselves, even to each other, a little bit more. So one of the things I'm super excited about this show with you, but I'm also the editor of Utah Policy, and that's a weekday newsletter that I do, which is curating news that I think is important for people to know. So it's focused on Utah because it's Utah Policy, but I have a lot of federal and even some world news in there. And it's one of the things I think that has kept me in the news cycle, maybe more than is healthy for my mental health, but it's you know, it's something that's out there and available for people if they want something that they can skim in the morning. You don't have to click on the links, but you can just skim it and at least have an idea what's going on in the world today.
Yeah, and you know, when I ran for Attorney General in 2020, one of the first things my campaign manager told me was, she said, are you familiar with Utah Policy? And I said, no. She said, you need to get it, you need to read it, you need to have it on your phone every single day. And so she said, once you do, you'll go to it every day. And I do. That's and I have every day for what that was in 2019 or 2020. You know, 6 years later, I read Utah Policy every day. And, you know, people think of me as the legal analyst for KSL, and I'm honored to have that title. But I do have some political background as well. Yeah. I mean, I run for office actually 3 times. People know of 2, but I actually ran 3 times. Lost every time. No regrets at all. I would say this in terms of people who go, well, why do you run for office? You just get beat up if you're a Democrat. And I never felt like the sacrificial lamb. I felt like it was a good thing to do. I felt like it was, I mean, the first time was a bucket list, but the second time I fooled myself, as we do as criminal defense lawyers. We always go into trial thinking, I can win this case. We lose more than we win in America, and the Democrats do the same here in Utah. But I enjoyed it, and I you know, this KSL gig, they asked me to dial back my politics and obviously dial back my law practice, which makes perfect sense because this is a full-time job, and you can't do this and try to do something else. And after 43 years, my wife was so happy. I mean, she's like, this is the perfect thing for you. And she listened to the show yesterday, and she loved you, by the way. And it's been nice to get to know you because
Hi, Rebecca.
A month ago, I didn't know you very well. And I keep thinking, you know, Holly and I need to go have a cup of coffee. We need to go do this or that. But working together the last couple of days is great. And I really think this is going to be a good hookup for you.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I think is fun is to look at the national or even world days of the week, right? So there is every single calendar day, there's something, some special something. So today is actually the National Ballpoint Pen Day today. And can you guess when the first ballpoint pen actually was released into the public?
100 years.
Yeah, it's actually more than that. It was 1888. And when the first one was available just on the market in the early 1900s, it was $12 for one pen.
You know, I'm a left-handed, and so I have to use a ballpoint pen. You can't write with a fine point because we write so goofy.
Yeah,
you know, our hands all switched around. So, you know, I always have a blue baby finger, but you know, with the way we have to write, I always have a ballpoint pen.
Yeah. So today's National Ballpoint Pen Day, but also we talked yesterday about this service project. It was a service project fair that the First Lady was doing, and I dropped by Thanksgiving Point yesterday, and I was able to talk to the First Lady. I was able to talk to the governor. I was able to see some of the booths. I had a couple of grandkids with me, and they went and jumped on bouncy houses. So I hope that our show will be able to highlight more service opportunities as we
and
head
we
through
absolutely need to do that. I mean, that was one of the things that people commented on after the show yesterday was, hey, these things that are happening. I mean, they wouldn't have known about Thanksgiving Point, but for our show and people hearing that kind of stuff. And we've had so many great guests. 2 days in, and we've had two Congress members, a lieutenant governor. I mean, the first lady. And a lot of other prominent Utah figures. So, I mean, this is a role that I hope we get on, that we continue with. And to our listeners, let us know what you're thinking of the show. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Tell us the things that you like. It's a little bit a different audience than I'm used to at the KSL at night. Who's listening from 9 to 12? From what I'm hearing, a lot of people. And I see cops all the time because I have my practice, and they're always telling me, I listen to you guys all the time.
Even my 10-year-old listened.
Yeah. So I have to say this in closing. Sly Stone passed away 2 days ago. I love this song, and I'm going to be thinking about it all day.
Never being such a rich one that will not help the poor one in different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, KSL News Time at 12 o'clock. This is Midday. I'm Britt Johnson in for Maria Chaleos today. KSL's top story this hour. If you're just tuning in, we've been following breaking news in Provo. Utah County's government offices are closed because of a bomb threat. KSL News Radio's Virl Johansson joins us with